AIO thinking about breaking up with my fiancé due to how he treats my special needs sister. Would like to know if I'm being overdramatic or overreacting. I'm 29 years old and my fiancé is also 29. We've known each other since 2015, because he attends the same religious church as me. We started dating in 2022 and he proposed to me in February of this year. We have plans to get married in October. He's an only child and I have one little sister who has some special needs. With me being an only sibling to my little sister who is 19, if something were to happen to my parents and when they can no longer care for her, she'll be living with me. She's not severely disabled. She has Down syndrome and a low IQ. She's very independent though. She can walk, talk, eat, shop, do a lot of life skills on her own with minimal assistance. She's just very vulnerable and isn't aware of safety. My fiancé is fully aware of the circumstances regarding our future and has accepted her living with us. It becomes a topic a lot since we're also considering having our own kids, so not all of the time, but sometimes when my fiancé and I go out I include my sister. I do respite for my sister, and I get paid to do respite for her. Again, my fiancé has always been acceptable with me including her when we hang out. We went out yesterday and I included my sister. My whole night felt ruined because of him. We went out to eat and my sister was trying to order. He kept rushing her when she was stuttering a bit. I didn't make a scene and kept silent due to not wanting to make a scene. We went to the mall next to go shop at my sister's and I's favorite store. My fiancé stayed out of the store. Which was fine because this store is aimed towards women. When we got done with shopping, and my little sister was showing him what she got, he didn't say anything and didn't even show any interest. I confronted him a bit and he made a rude remark saying, "God forbid me not caring about your sister fragrances." Our last stop was Target. I had to get some things and I had my sister help with scanning things. He seemed annoyed and told me that she needs to speed things up because this is awkward. Mind you, there wasn't even a line and multiple of self-checkouts were open. When he dropped me off at home yesterday I didn't even say anything. As much as I want us to grow together I can't be with someone who belittles my sister. Do I have the right to be upset? Comments. Commenter 1. I'm confused about what was awkward at Target. Her in general. Her speed while checking items or a lack thereof. Either way, I'd be offended and feel protective of her because I can't see his perspective about either being valid. I'm so sorry he was mean to you and toward her. The term red flag exists for this reason. Continue the engagement but be very aware of what and how he says things. If you continue to see red flags, make the hated choice sooner than later. Reply, I was having her scan items, because it's a goal she works on since she gets state services for her intellectual disability. We had a full cart and it was taking a little longer than usual to finish, because she would accidentally scan something twice. So the staff was kind of hanging close around us in case we needed assistance. I think he low-key feels embarrassed just by her presence and feels like we're being stared at. Commenter 2. You obviously don't have to if you don't want, but I'm very curious to know what this loser of a man looks like. A lot of losers who talk crap are insecure and below average looking. Reply, it'll be breaking the rules if I post him, but I don't mind sending you a picture of him through PM on here. Commenter 3. OP, I think things are a bit more worrisome than you are letting yourself believe. He is treating your sister as a nuisance. He is not low-key embarrassed, he is outright ashamed to be seen in public with your sister. His behavior is rude and belittling and dismissive. I currently work retail, and have to oversee the self-check machines often. If he is getting upset because a person learning to use the machine is slower than a person who already knows, he lacks both patience and empathy. I have watched many people come through those machines. Many times we have to fix an accidentally doubled item or a barcode that rings in wrong or what have you. The way people react in those situations is very telling. It's a tiny little stress moment in their day, but it shows their character. Your fiancé is currently showing very poor character. If he has this poor of an attitude about a small oops like these, he will have a much worse attitude about bigger problems. Of course, there are always folks who are already having a bad day and thus react out of proportion. But all you did was take your sister for an outing together. That shouldn't be a bad day for a decent human. This requires a very in-depth conversation at the very least. You need to get to the bottom of what he actually thinks and believes about you, your sister, and your family. His mother's comment about the gene pool shows that he has been taught from the cradle to devalue anyone with a handicap of any kind. I apologize for not having a better word than handicap to describe the mindset problem. If he is actively working to undo that conditioning, that is good, but he obviously has a very long way to go. If he is trying to just get by until the wedding, his mask is slipping badly. Either way, your sister does not deserve to be treated as his social dues for being a good guy. She is a human with her own dignity and deserves to be treated as such. I hope you can get to the bottom of this quickly, OP. You are not overreacting at all. I am afraid you are likely underreacting to the problem in front of you. Best of luck, OP. May you find a nice shiny spine and use it well for your own benefit and then for others. Hugs if you want them. Commenter 4. I can empathize with both of you here. I had a niece with special needs and it can be a lot. So I can't blame anyone for not being ready to have that in their life, but it's important for him to respectfully say, I'm sorry, I'm not ready for that, instead of lying to you to keep his romantic access, to put it overly politely. Huge red flag. Try to work it out with him if you want, but for the sake of the kids, don't have this man's kids. Being a parent requires way more patience than he's shown he's capable of, and you just know if one of them is disabled he'll blame you and your family's genes. Commenter 5. Nor one thing to keep in mind, aside from how he treats your sister, is that in marriage there will be times when you will need him to be your caregiver. It could be after the birth of a child that took an unexpected turn, surgery where you can't even bathe without assistance. If he treats your sister the way he does, ask yourself if he would treat you the same way when he is supposed to care for you. I would have an honest conversation with him about your expectations in this marriage and as if this is something he is capable of. Reply, his mother actually asked my parents about our gene pool when we went out with his parents one time, but said afterwards that she would love her grandchild regardless. So I just let that one go. Update. I posted on here a few days ago regarding my fiancé and my special needs little sister. Some people wanted an update. After posting about it, reading most of the comments and doing deep thinking, I've decided to cut ties with him last Sunday. It was one of the most hardest things that I've had to do, because we've had our future planned out and he was my first relationship. Family will always come first for me, and I'm not going to be with someone who is an ableist. Especially when him and I can end up with a disabled child someday, because muscular dystrophy does run in my family. As far as my future, I'm a pediatric RN, so I'm going to keep focusing on my career. I have a savings account set up, so I'm planning on applying for an apartment very soon. I'm also going on a Bahamian cruise in October that was supposed to be our honeymoon, but I'll be going with my best friend instead. So I'm ecstatic for that. I'm going to keep living my life as best as I can and not dwell over a relationship that obviously wasn't meant to be. For the few people who made comments such as that, I'm just going to end up single, because no one wants the package that I come with. Just know that I see the ableism in you and you might want to humble yourselves, because anyone can become disabled respectfully. Comments. Commenter 1. Good for you. My daughter is autistic and requires a lot of patience and understanding. I'd lose my mind if someone I knew treated her badly because of her extra needs. So, how did he take it? I'm really curious to know. Reply, it went pretty sour, but I expected it because he has a pretty short temper. Which is crazy to admit, because we are both a part of the LDS church. A little context. So before officially breaking up, on Saturday we went out, because I really wanted to get down to the root of the problem on why he was so disgusted by my sister. He started gaslighting me and making me feel like it was a me issue. That's when I knew that it wasn't going to work, and on Sunday I had him come over to my house and I told him that we're done. He started crying and apologizing, then he turned into a hothead and demanded the ring back, and everything that I owned that he brought for me. Crazy, right? Mind you, this happened at my parents' house where I'm currently living. They were already aware of his behavior. When he demanded everything back and refused to leave my bedroom, I just texted my mom for help because it was the first time that he showed genuine rage at me, and I didn't want to get physically hurt. My dad, who is a retired cop, came up and told him to leave. Commenter 2. Well, to be fair, if he proposed to you, you should give him back his ring. Reply, the ring I absolutely did give back. But clothes that I own and have worn multiple of times, car keys that he had insisted to replace when I lost mine in the past, and other petty things like that I refused to just give back. Commenter 3. Totally fair. Returning the ring shows respect, but keeping personal items you've used and were gifted makes sense. Not everything needs to be handed back out of spite. Stories number 2. Aita for refusing to let my brother's new girlfriend sleep in my bed while she stayed over. So here's the situation. I'm a 27-year-old woman, and my older brother, 30M, recently started dating someone new. Her name is Megan, 25F, and from what little I've heard, they met through mutual friends about 2 months ago. I hadn't met her yet, but my brother seemed excited and wanted me to meet her. Now, for context, my brother and I have always been close. We were the kind of siblings who bickered a lot as kids but grew closer as adults. We've supported each other through breakups, job losses, and family drama. In college, I'd crash on his couch when I visited, and he'd do the same for me. But we always respected each other's space. And even back then, I never walked into his apartment and assumed his bed was fair game. That was just a line we didn't cross. So fast forward to last month. He texts me asking if he and Megan can stay at my place for the weekend. They're coming into the city, and he didn't want to shell out for a hotel. I have a decent-sized one-bedroom apartment with a comfy pull-out couch in the living room. I said sure, happy to help out. What I did not agree to, however, was giving up my bed. The plan was simple: I'd go to work Friday, they'd get there in the afternoon, and we'd all hang out that night. But when I came home from work, things were not how I expected. I walked into my bedroom to change, and there she was. Megan. Sitting on my bed. Unpacking her weekend bag. Her shoes were off, her hairbrush was on my nightstand, and my throw pillows were tossed on the floor like they were in the way. I stopped in the doorway, totally caught off guard. She smiled politely and said, "Oh hi. I hope it's okay, I just started settling in." I blinked. Settling in, where? That's when my brother came up behind me and casually said, "Oh, I figured you wouldn't mind giving up your bed for a couple nights. Megan has a bad back, and the pullout isn't great." I just stood there in shock. Like, I get being a good host, but this? He never even asked. He just assumed I'd give up my own bed, my personal space, so that his brand new girlfriend could be comfortable. I calmly said, "No. I didn't offer you guys the bedroom. The pullout in the living room is what I agreed to." My brother raised an eyebrow, like I was overreacting. He said something like, "Come on, don't be so uptight. It's just for 2 nights. You always stayed at my place in college." I replied, "Yeah, on your couch. Not in your bed." At this point, Megan looked super uncomfortable. She didn't say anything, but she slowly started gathering her stuff. I tried to be polite and said, "It's nothing personal, Megan. But I wasn't expecting anyone to be in my room. You're more than welcome to stay on the pullout." But my brother? He was fuming. He mumbled something under his breath and stormed off to the living room. That set the tone for the entire weekend. The tension was thick. I tried to stay out of their way, but everything felt off. We'd make small talk over breakfast, and Megan would smile, but my brother barely said a word to me. He didn't want to go sightseeing anymore, and every time I offered to do something together, he brushed me off. Sunday morning, before they left, he finally let it out. He told me I was rude, ungrateful, and made his girlfriend feel totally unwanted. He said he was trying to treat her to a comfortable weekend and that I made it all awkward. I told him he made me uncomfortable by not asking, and that it's not rude to set boundaries in your own home. He shook his head and said I should have just sucked it up for 2 nights to help him make a good impression. I haven't heard from him since, and now my mom is involved. She called me a few days later, saying my brother told her I made a scene and embarrassed him in front of Megan. My mom is super traditional and thinks the woman of the house should make guests feel welcome, no matter what. But here's the thing, I am hospitable. I let them stay in my home. I provided clean sheets, towels, snacks, even offered to cook dinner. But I never agreed to hand over my bed like it was a hotel suite. My friends are split. Some say I should have just let it go for 48 hours, especially to avoid drama. Others say it's bizarre to assume someone would give up their bed without even asking. And the more I think about it, the more conflicted I feel. On one hand, I don't want to ruin my relationship with my brother over something like this. But on the other hand, isn't it my right to decide who sleeps in my bed? Especially when it's not an emergency, and there's a perfectly good couch with a mattress right there. Now I'm wondering if this was just a miscommunication, or if my brother's starting to take my kindness for granted. I haven't heard from Megan since either. I'm not sure if she felt awkward or if she agrees with him, but she definitely didn't message me or say thank you before leaving. It's been a few weeks, and my brother still hasn't reached out. I miss him. I love him. But I also feel like I shouldn't have to apologize for setting a basic boundary in my own home. So yeah. I'm just sitting here wondering if I'm the asshole. Update, 2 weeks later. I didn't expect to hear from Megan, but she messaged me. It was short and weirdly formal. She wrote, "Hey, I just wanted to say sorry if I made things uncomfortable. I didn't know your brother hadn't asked you about the bed. I should have double-checked before settling in. I hope things are okay between you guys." I stared at the message for a while. I wasn't sure if it was sincere or damage control, but I appreciated her acknowledging what happened. I replied, "Thanks for saying that. I don't blame you at all. It just caught me off guard. No hard feelings." We left it at that. She didn't write back. Then a few nights later, I got a text from my brother. "Can we talk?" We hadn't spoken since they left. I told him yes, and he called me the next evening. At first, it was tense. His voice was flat, and I could tell he was holding back. But eventually, he said, I guess I messed up. It was quiet for a second, and I almost didn't know what to say. I waited. He went on, I just wanted things to go smoothly with Megan. She's different. She's better than the girls I usually bring home. I thought if she was comfortable, she'd like the idea of us being a unit. I didn't think about how I made you feel. That hit harder than I expected. Because for a moment, I realized that it wasn't just about the bed. My brother had been trying to create this fantasy weekend, perfect girlfriend, perfect setup, and forgot the most basic thing, respect. I told him that, I get it. But you didn't even ask. You acted like my boundaries didn't matter. He sighed, yeah. You're right. I'm sorry. And that was the first real apology I'd heard from him in a long time. We talked for over an hour. Not just about the bed thing, but about everything. How we've grown apart. How he felt like I never supported his relationships. How I felt like he took my kindness for granted. We aired out stuff we buried for years. He told me Megan thought I was cool and that she wasn't mad. She just felt awkward and didn't want to come between us. I told him she didn't seem like the problem. In the end, he said, next time, I'll ask. And I won't expect your bed. I laughed. Damn right, you won't. Where things stand now, we're talking again. Not daily, but it's less cold. He's even invited me to dinner next week, just him, no Megan. I think he wants to reset. I do too. I don't know if things will fully go back to how they were, but I'm hopeful. At least now, he knows that being family doesn't mean entitlement. It means respect. And if Megan visits again, well, the couch is still there, and the bedroom door has a lock now. Final update, 3 months later. A few weeks after our last conversation, my brother invited me to his place. He'd just moved into a new apartment, and Megan had officially moved in with him. It felt like an olive branch, and I accepted. I brought a bottle of wine and a small housewarming gift, nothing fancy, just a framed print of a cityscape he used to love when we were younger. When I arrived, Megan answered the door. She looked a little nervous at first, but she gave me a genuine smile. Hi, she said. Thank you for coming. Their place was surprisingly cozy. Megan clearly had a hand in decorating, earth tones, plants, soft lighting. It felt warm in a way my brother's old bachelor-style places never did. She offered to take my coat and asked if I wanted tea or coffee. It was nice. Thoughtful. While she stepped into the kitchen, my brother walked over. He kept his voice low. I told her we were starting fresh. So this is the reset. And it was. Dinner was light, casual, and easy. We talked about work, books, and somehow ended up laughing about a terrible high school haircut he once had. Megan joined in comfortably but never overstepped. She asked questions about me, about my apartment, even about that pull-out couch. At one point she said, next time, we'll bring our own air mattress if we ever visit again. I smiled. That was her way of saying, I get it now. After dessert, Megan excused herself to walk their new dog, and my brother and I were alone. He leaned back on the couch and looked over at me. Thanks for coming. I know that weekend sucked. I was trying so hard to look like I had it together, and I bulldozed you in the process. You did, I said. But this is better. He nodded. She's the real deal. I wanted to impress her. I forgot I didn't need to do it by stepping over people I care about. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. As I left that night, I looked back at him in the doorway and said, just don't forget your guest privileges at my place are suspended until further notice. He smirked. Fair enough. Where we are now, we're closer again. Megan's visited my apartment since, and this time, they stayed in a hotel nearby without making it awkward. My brother now double-checks before assuming anything, sometimes even over-checks, and I tease him about it. And as for Megan, she turned out to be one of those rare people who actually wants to understand family dynamics. She told me later she'd been embarrassed after that first visit and didn't want to ruin the chance to be included. I respected that. Boundaries were tested, lessons were learned, and the most unexpected part of all, my brother actually gifted me a new comforter set for the bed he tried to steal. I guess in the end, everyone just wants to feel respected, and warm at night. Stories number 3. Aita for calling out my mom for lying about a family vacation I was excluded, lied to about, and asked to help for. Sal rented a beach house and proceeded to invite all of my siblings and their partners, my nieces and nephews, and my mother. I wasn't invited. They hid the trip from me, but Sal let it slip during a family dinner. When Sal let it slip, my mom lied to me and said it was just my mom and youngest sibling with partner who were going with them. The day they were leaving they missed their ferry boat, so they called me for me to help arrange a charter. I helped them. The next day I find out this was indeed a whole family trip, minus me. It should be noted we all live in the same city, so it's not a situation that I live far away or something. It should also be noted that me and my family are taking a trip at the end of the month, and my SAL invited herself to tag along with her family, and they're going. So it's not a situation where I would think my SAL hates me, but who knows. I got upset and called my mom out for lying. I told her that what they did was shitty. My mom kept saying that only 12 people fit in the house SAL rented. I responded that the decent thing to do, if the intention was for everyone to go, was to find a house that fit us all or to let me know in case I wanted to go so that I could book my own accommodations, and if neither of those two reasonable options were available, then for her to go with just her family unit. SIL is very wealthy and often likes to rent huge lavish houses we can't afford to pitch in for, and then just pay for everything. Everyone in my family is doing pretty well financially, just not SIL level wealthy where she'll rent a house for 3 days that's over $30,000. I'm not comfortable with this, like why can't we find something we can all pitch in for and afford? But everyone would call me a complainer, so I stopped making any comments a long time ago and just offer to pitch in what I can afford. Anyway, I know that for her the whole purpose of the trip was this house she rented, even if it meant I didn't get invited. My SAL likes drama and likes to exclude people as well. One time she planned a yacht trip and invited me and my siblings, minus my mom and my youngest sibling. She was mad at them then. I told her if they weren't invited, that'd create family drama that I wasn't comfortable partaking in and that it would make my mom and youngest sibling feel bad. She said they'd just tell them they didn't fit in the yacht. I thanked her for the invite, but if my mom and youngest sibling weren't invited I wasn't going. So then she invited my youngest sibling and disinvited me. My youngest sibling went. I reminded my mom of the yacht situation and reminded her how upset she was over it. And then just said that it's not a problem, not to invite me to anything else because my answer will from now on be only no, that they didn't have to worry about only 12 fitting anymore because now they're just 12. My mom apologized and said she shouldn't have gone. I didn't say anything else. Aita. I don't know if I'm overreacting. TLDR, SIL invited the whole family to a beach vacation but didn't invite me. They lied about who was invited and they were even calling me to help with their trip that I wasn't invited to. When I found out the truth, I called out my mom on me being excluded. The excuse was I didn't fit in the house, so I said they didn't have to worry about me not fitting anymore, as I had no plans to ever attend another family event. Stories number 4. MIL keeps trying to bring Step BL to family events after we cut him out of our life after a vile act. Help. So new to Too Hot Take. Started listening when I stumbled across Mogan on Smosh when it came across my For You page. In the last 3 weeks I have been hammering through the back catalog. So thanks for my new obsession. Anyways, as to why I am here. I, 40M, had something come up last night. My wife is currently 3 months pregnant and it hasn't been easy on her. Between food poisoning and severe morning sickness, she lost 10 pounds during first trimester. She is finally starting to feel normal, so we went out to a Pride burlesque show with friends. While there I found out that her mother has been going behind her back to try and convince the rest of her family to start bringing her stepbrother to family events again. This seems benign enough except that my wife never ever wants to see him again. Backstory, her brother, she calls him this because he's been her stepbrother since he was under 3, stole 2 of my cards and tried to use them to buy over $2,000 worth of stuff, and then a month later he finally apologized and the next day texted her and said he needed her to have sex with him because he's so depressed. She sent screenshots to the family group chat and basically said if he's there, we won't be. I wanted to kill this kid and verbally rip his head off, but respected my wife's wishes to handle it herself and she has my full support. I love this woman and she has made me such a better person and a father. So after the comment from my wife I wanted to explode. Her mother keeps acting like because this happened 8 months ago we can sweep it under the rug, but it was her first night out with her friends since the trip. I was in charge providing the dollar bills for the tips and carrying shoes, winking face with tongue. I didn't want to derail the conversation and the fun. I am still fuming. I want to call her mother up and lay into her. But I don't want to cause any further rift between her and her mom. I am also worried about bringing up the situation because it is tied to such a triggering event for her and she still isn't feeling the best. I am at a loss of what action to take. I think I am going to talk to her mom about it and about how hurt and violated the incident make her feel, and every time the mother brings up the brother around my wife, it makes her feel ill, but would I be overstepping? I just really want to do something, but I don't want to make the situation worse. Help. Update. So I went to the gym and read some comments and thought more while I worked out. When I got home, I sat down and talked with my wife. Asked what she would like to do. She asked me to write up a text and let her read it before I send it. I will probably do it tomorrow as we are packing for our trip right now, but I will use some of the ideas and verbiage you guys suggested. If there is anything more to report, I'll make an update. Update 2. So the text was sent this morning before we left. Shortened and abbreviated below. I know it has been 8 months since the messages between stepbrother and wife, but those are still fresh in her mind. The mention of SB makes wife feel unsafe and uncomfortable. She does not want him to be a part of her life. If SB is going to be at any family events, please just let me know so we can avoid any drama or confrontation in advance. We don't want to cause a scene or make anyone uncomfortable. We will just politely decline any invite for a casual reason. I also mentioned discussing it with wife's sisters about bringing him to events behind wife's back. Thankfully her sisters have her back. Had a message waiting for me when we arrived. She apologized for discussing SB around wife. Did tell us she would always make sure we knew if SB would be there, but from the wording of the message I will just be prepared. I am gonna put my phone away and enjoy the vacation and the time with my wife. I want to thank everyone here for the productive comments and insight. I was able to use ideas and verbiage to help express my concerns to my wife without triggering memories and help her and protect her. Thank you to this group. I appreciate all the support. Update Mael keeps trying to bring stepbrother. While on vacation, the family group text was planning the 4th of July plans with all the sisters. Everything seemed fine until Mael wanted to do dinner Sunday, tomorrow, at her house with the family. SB still lives at her house. My wife decided to ignore it and then talk to me about it on the way home. She decided that she wanted to ask for more details and SB wouldn't be home. She decided she would think about it. We went to the parade by her mother's house with her family yesterday for the 4th. After the parade, she needed to use the restroom, reminder 3 months pregnant, and when she got near her mom's, she got nervous and ill and couldn't bring herself to go inside because SB still lives there. She broke down later in the day. She has been trying to make things work because she wants to be able to have big family events for our kids at the grandparents with all the cousins like she had growing up. She got so triggered and afraid that SB would randomly come home while she was vulnerable in the bathroom that she couldn't walk into that house. We talked a long time, and I told her we can host any and all family events with all the cousins. I am not a very big groups and social event person, so she thought I would be uncomfortable having so many people over. Needless to say, we will not be doing dinner on Sunday at Mael's house, and now I am on the way to the store to get a brisket and some sides in preparation for a family barbecue this Sunday. SB will not be there and will never come to our house. So looks like we will be hosting family dinner once a month for a while. This will be my last update on this barring something wild. Again, thanks to everyone for the advice. It was very helpful. Stories number 5. Aita for telling my dad he did make a mistake when he remarried to give me and my sister a mom again. This was a very unexpected talk with my dad that turned into a fight, and I'm 28M, here to ask if I'm TA. Basically my dad told me he had spoken to the wife of one of his closest friends and she had told him he married for all the wrong reasons the second time and it was a big mistake on his part. He didn't agree with her and argued with her on the reasons he married a second time. Then he went to talk to my sister, 24F, who didn't engage but I did. For context, our mom died when we were 3 and 7. A year later dad was dating again, and after 7 months of dating he married his second wife. His intent was to give us another mom because he felt like we needed one and he also felt like he couldn't do it alone. They divorced 9 years ago, but they share custody of their 2 children, so she's not out of his life. Although they are high conflict. When my dad came to me he told me about his discussion with his friend's wife and how he couldn't get an answer out of my sister. He told me to tell him the wife of his friend had been wrong and he did the right thing, that his decision gave me and my sister a mom again. Instead of that I told him the truth, which is that it was a mistake because she was never our mom and we never needed him to be with someone else for that, that he had been enough for us. He asked me what 2 young kids would do without a mom and I told him we had a dad. He was still involved in our day-to-day lives and care, so what did he need her for if he didn't marry her for love? He said he thought we'd loved her and that we'd thrived with a mother's love. Then he brought up his ex's anger at him in the latter years and her comments that the 3 of us never gave a shit about her. He asked me if that's what she meant and I said probably. He was saying that wasn't his fault and he didn't understand me, and the friend's wife saying marrying was a mistake. I said he never really loved her and he only married her to give us a mom and that we never accepted her as our new mom. I pointed out how his ex likely felt that and over time grew more discouraged because it wasn't just me but my sister too. And he was never very affectionate with her either. Then it turned into a fight with dad saying I disrespected his choices by calling them mistakes and that I disrespected him by not trusting the new mother he had chosen for us. It annoyed me and I told him that. I mentioned how we had a mom and it didn't look too good in my eyes to act like she could be so easily replaced. And that's when we just straight argued about what I said and about his decision, and he's mad that I said it was a mistake. Maybe that's me putting too many words in his mouth. But it did fail because his ex is not someone I ever regarded as a mother and I have not seen or spoken to her in a decade. Stories number 6. My boss hasn't talked to me since his drunken striptease. What to do with a, probably, embarrassed boss. I, 40s F, my boss, 50s M, and a fellow coworker, 60s F, all happen to share a hobby. In August, I made the mistake of going on a weekend trip with them. The outing was justified by claiming we could save money if we split the cost of lodging. We rented a one-bedroom condo with 2 lofts. The lofts faced each other across the living room. I had one loft, my boss had the other. Friday night was fine, but Saturday he got drunk. After we all went to bed, he stood in his loft and asked if I wanted to sing while he did a striptease. I did not and told him so. I would have turned the lights off, so as not to see anything, but the control for the overheads was in his loft. Anyway, he proceeded to take off his clothes. I rolled over and faced the wall once his shirt came off. I heard his belt buckle hit the floor not long after. I have no idea if he stopped there or if the performance ended with full frontal nudity. Before this happened, our relationship was great. We've worked together for years and have been very close. We each had a bad pandemic and lost people. We have cried on each other's shoulders via phone several times, but ever since this incident, he has completely ignored me at work. He won't take or return calls and doesn't respond to emails. At present, I can go a couple weeks without seeing or hearing from him at all. It's gotten so bad that I've begun contacting other same-level supervisors when I have issues that need to be resolved. Usually, I send the request to him first, via email, text, or phone, then send one follow-up 3 days later. If I've gotten no response 48 hours after follow-up, I contact another supervisor. I've kept all my messages friendly and upbeat because I'm pretty sure he's just embarrassed and realizes he made a huge mistake. The other person we were with doesn't know and I have no plans of telling her or HR. I've got boys and have held leadership roles in the scouting program for over 12 years, so trust me, I've seen men do a lot of stupid things. Camping, beer, and stupidity are the holy trinity of male outings. This is just par for the course. The only difference is, I don't have to work with them. I do know he's been going through a very difficult time personally. Anyway, I'm pretty sure he's embarrassed. Possibly even terrified that I'll go to HR because this has the possibility to become a career-ending debacle. I won't do that for one bad decision, which he obviously regrets. However, this is affecting my performance at work, so something has got to change. How do I resolve this issue? I can't just send an email, voicemail, or text because there is no right to privacy on company machines. I have his personal cell number, but figured that if he's ignoring me at work, he probably won't answer that either. And I can't just walk into his office because we work remotely. Update: the commentator who stated, "In vino veritas," hit the mark. Days after my question appeared online, I sat, scrolling through comments, crying into my wine. I intended to phone a friend. Instead, I drunk dialed my boss, on his work phone. Will answered immediately recognizing that I was drunk. He said, "Hang on. I'll call you right back on my personal phone." In the call that followed, he confessed to having a crush on me since his very first day as my supervisor. And he admitted that he wanted me to join him for a sexual liaison in the loft. I admitted that as much as I liked him, I didn't like being pursued by someone who was married. You read right, married. In my initial letter, I lied to protect him. The first lie was saying he was divorced. The second lie was claiming the tip happened in August. Really, it occurred in September. Rather than agree to keeping everything professional and above board from then on, Will insisted that he and his wife had separated. Then he convinced me to engage in phone sex. After that he pursued me relentlessly. And I'll admit, I liked the attention. After swearing his divorce was final, Will planned a work trip rendezvous for us in April 2024. Once he got what he wanted, he no longer had any use for me and did exactly what you said he'd do, lay the groundwork to fire me. Will got a new supervisor in June 2024. She took an immediate dislike to me, often requiring me to work during approved leave, work 7 days per week, shorting my pay, etc. This culminated in me being required to work 27 consecutive days in January. At first, I thought he was going along with it because he was afraid that if I spoke up, he'd lose his job. That'd simply make him a coward, rather than malicious. Later, I learned I was wrong. Other supervisors began talking. Before me, there was an employee who got involved with Will and ended up being transferred. I watched as Will started grooming another employee after he lost interest in me. Aside from the three of us, Will admitted to having an affair with another woman. And wouldn't you know it, he and his wife are still together. Yeah, cheater's gonna cheat. The constant stress resulted in a mental breakdown. I reported the hostile work environment to HR and the EEOC, then spent 3 months on FMLA. That ended up protecting my job long enough for the government to start offering voluntary separation incentive programs. I left my job with $25,000 in cash. I am still emotionally broken and working through the betrayal trauma I suffered at Will's hands. I have no idea what the future will hold. My EEOC complaint was accepted and is moving forward, so I hope there will be justice in the end. Stories number 7. Aita for telling my BF he can't use my vehicle anymore to take his kids to school every day. More info below. I, 30F, am starting to get frustrated with my 36M boyfriend for not taking accountability for his own problems. He had a vehicle that he used to drive but beat it into the ground and never gave the vehicle any TLC until we started dating 4 years ago. He drove it with an expired inspection sticker, like 3 years expired, until he got pulled over and an officer told him next time he would get a ticket. The car sat for an entire year until we moved to a new apartment, and the car continued to sit for another year until my landlord confronted me that it needed to be removed from the property due to no use and it was difficult to start and move during the winter snowfall for plowing. My BF got upset because, it's his vehicle, he can have it there. Where doesn't say in the lease he can't have it here. After a couple months my landlord brought it up again that he wouldn't resign a lease with us if the car wasn't removed. So in January, after my last warning from the landlord, I went and bought a new battery for the car, installed it myself, got a storage unit, had it towed to said storage unit and told my BF he needed to figure out what to do with it. 7 months later the car still sits in the storage unit which I'm paying $200 a month for. I recently brought up to him and stated, I don't want this to be a fight, I'm just airing my truths. I stated that I found it really difficult for me to continue to store the vehicle because he's not taking an accountability for it. He's just forgotten about it until I've consistently bring it up to him and ask what he's doing with it. I told him I found it really unattractive that there was no initiative and that it was really starting to piss me off. I'm the only one that's helped him with it and he's not given a shit. I told him at this point he owes me all the money back, but deep down I know that probably won't happen. He sat and listened to what I had to say but didn't really input any sort of game plan to get rid of it. This was a month ago. Today I sit here, getting the bank notification that $200 was taken out for the storage unit again and he's given zero effort to figuring it out. He uses my car for whatever he needs, including when his kids were in school he would drive my car every day to bring them. I really don't have a problem with that, but I'm starting to feel used. He puts gas in the car but treats it like it's an ours vehicle. I paid my car off, which was a huge accomplishment for me. But there's a small anxious part of me that worries that if he's driving it and gets in an accident I'm SOL. I haven't had the conversation with him yet. I know it's going to be a hard one, but it's the only way I feel like I can stand my ground at this point. I know his kids may be a little disappointed that they can't see their dad every day, but I feel that I can't continue to keep allowing him to use it like he wants. And I also think I'm just going to have his car towed to his mother's house so they can deal with it. All I've done is put effort into this car. I put in spark plugs, new alternator and a new battery to get it to start. All by myself and YouTube. The car isn't inspectable and needs a lot of work that I know he won't put into it. And I barely got a thank you. Edit, yes he has a job. I take him to work every day and pick him up at the end of his shift. He has a good job but saving money. Most of you have said that he doesn't respect me, and yes I do see that and have for a while. I know that I'm just letting him walk all over me, and that's why I talked to him last month about it and told him I needed him to figure it out. Stories number 8. My 27M, wife, 29F, has given up on our child, 10F. I'm not sure how to reconcile. How do I move past this? My 27M, family's broken, and I'm trying to reassemble the pieces. I need advice. For context, my wife, 29F, and I are childhood sweethearts, married now for around 5 years. I know we became parents and got married pretty young, but we've made it work. My wife's a small business owner. She turned a passion into a career. I'm really happy for her. When she started, I promised her that since my work hours were flexible, I'd hold things down at home so she could focus on building her business. We were a team until we weren't. My wife's an extreme workaholic, and it's come between our family. We're not in a good place. Our daughters, 10F, caregiving is solely on me. The time my wife and daughter spend together is made up mostly of short replies or silence. Our daughter isn't disrespectful. She's a good kid. She's just not as comfortable with her mom. My wife and I have had a lot of talks about the state of our family. With the business well off the ground and her not needing to personally oversee everything as often, we're working on reconnecting. It's been an uphill battle. Recently, we had a bad fight. She told me she's given up on trying with our daughter. She said she's not good at it, and she's just going to stay in her lane. I told her she couldn't decide to clock out on our daughter during rocky stints. She said she's emotionally exhausted from repeatedly striking out. She feels she can't do anything right in our daughter's eyes. She said I have it easy, that our daughter prefers me, and even made sure her whole class knew it. The class jab was about a school assignment. Our daughter had to interview someone she admired, and she asked me. My wife was hurt. She still feels a way about it. She accused me of not understanding. She comes home to a child she carried not respecting her. That our daughter's an expert critic when it comes to her. She went into a huge rant. The way she talked about her rubbed me the wrong way. I told her most of her complaints weren't our daughter's creation. She asked me what that meant, and I laid it out that she hasn't gone out of her way to connect with our daughter. She shut me down. She went into how she busts her ass for our family, and the least I could do is show up for her. All I do is show up for her, including holding down responsibilities that we're supposed to share. We aren't childless. It's no longer those me and her against the world days. I need to show up for our daughter too. She just kept saying she has a lot on her plate and how I'm supposed to be her piece. I refuted the only piece that ever seemed to matter these days was hers. She said our daughter and I are two of a kind and began sarcastically apologizing for her sacrifices, and if the business is what's driving us apart, then she'll renounce it. She'd make do. I asked if we could skip her martyr routine and actually talk. The fight only escalated. I called the fight a complete waste of time, but she interpreted that as me calling her a waste of time. It was the worst fight we had in a while. Our daughter was at her grandparents', so she didn't hear anything. We're at an impasse, things are still tense. How to clear the air or how to reach her about our daughter. She can't dismiss her like some disgruntled customer at work. In a lot of ways, I feel like a single parent. I don't believe she's being honest with herself about our issues. She's a distant figure who has a habit of talking at our daughter instead of to her. There are a lot of broken promises. Nothing ever mended. She doesn't try engaging. Our daughter loves anime, but my wife doesn't hold back on overly criticizing it in front of her. Our daughter got into K-pop, but to my wife it's just bothersome noise around the house or in the car. Our daughter has stage fright. Yet she joined a school play because she knows her mom loves theater. My wife promised her she'd come. She didn't. The worst part was seeing our daughter realize she wasn't. My wife never apologized. She gave her, work was busy. I promise next time, speech. She offered to bring our daughter with her on Take Your Child to Work Day. I thought it'd be good for them and a chance for our daughter to see more of what her mom does. But our daughter called me upset and wanted me to pick her up. She said her mom had immediately left her with a subordinate and went AWOL. When my wife checked in on her, they fought. She told our daughter that a bratty attitude won't be tolerated in her workplace. She and I had it out later. She apologized to our daughter and blamed blowing up on work frustration. She offered to bring her back another day, but our daughter refused. My wife always felt she was bad at articulating her feelings. She feels she comes off aggressive. That's partly why she leaves our daughter's caretaking to me. But this fight has me questioning the nature of our relationship. I don't doubt she loves our daughter. I saw it firsthand during the pregnancy, and in our private conversations, she couldn't stop gushing about her. I felt her love in the little things. Something changed over time. My wife isn't close with her parents. She usually has me talk with them on her behalf. She has a mindset that parents' kids don't have to be close. She believes since she turned out fine, so will our daughter. I'm failing to help their relationship and our own. We barely have quality time. Intimacy is shot. When we're out together, we aren't really together because in public, she's hyper-aware and has her business persona on. What else to do? I'm at a loss. I'm not trying to bash my wife. I just want everyone to be okay. I'm in a fight for my family right now. How do I mend my wife's and daughter's relationship while also repairing my marriage? TLDR, my family's broken, and I'm trying to reassemble the pieces. My wife's an extreme workaholic, and it's come between our family. We're not in a good place. Our daughter's caregiving is solely on me. My wife and daughter's time together is mostly short replies/silence. We're working on reconnecting, but we had a bad fight. She's given up on trying to connect with our daughter. She said she's not good at it, and she's just going to stay in her lane. She feels she can't do anything right in our daughter's eyes. It was our worst fight in a while. Now we're at an impasse. In a lot of ways, I feel like a single parent. I'm failing to help their relationship. I just want everyone to be okay. How do I mend my wife's and daughter's relationship while also repairing my marriage? Update: My 27M wife, 29F, has given up on our child, 10F. I'm not sure how to reconcile. How do I move past this? Thank you to everyone who reached out. It helped a great deal. My 27M original post was pretty much the first time I talked about any of this. I wanted to give an update. My wife, 29F, and I had a serious discussion about everything. It took us a while to get there because things were still tense after our last fight and our mini spats in between. Our daughter noticed the rift between her mom and me. She asked me about it. I'm not proud of that. I never wanted her involved in our fights. It was a larger wake-up call. I shouldn't have let it drag out. My wife asked if we could talk, and we both apologized for the fight. She was worried that I was calling it quits after how bad our last fight was. She took us not recovering as quickly as usual and my distance as me being done. She wanted to make a gesture for our marriage. I told her that her harsh action towards our daughter had made me question our relationship. She said she felt bad for intensely ranting about our daughter. She was overwhelmed and used the situation as a punching bag. She loves our daughter but is at a loss as a parent. I told her we'd all keep being at a loss in our current state. We're disconnected as a couple and a family. I feel like a single parent and alone in our marriage. Our current way isn't working. Her lack of presence is the common root cause. I didn't feel like our daughter or I actually mattered and were more put up with by her. That statement really bothered her. She denied it and promised our family does matter to her. She said she knows things aren't good right now, but she wants our family. That she gets frustrated and says stuff she doesn't mean, but it doesn't equate to how she actually feels. I told her it's not just her words. It's her actions. Her harshness and how she chooses everything over our family every single time while expecting us to just have smiles on our faces. We're not props, and I can't enforce a relationship between her and our daughter. She said she has trouble with contentment, and it's an endless chase. She has this need to keep chasing after an inner feeling she's always felt she missed. We talked about the feeling before. It's a high and feeling whole. She said she thought our relationship was the answer, she thought our daughter was the answer, and then she thought her business would completely fill that void. She said she doesn't know how to be with our daughter. When our daughter was a baby, everything was easier, that our daughter would get excited when she came home from work, that no matter what she did or didn't do, she had our daughter's love. But she's older now and barely seems to like being in the same room as her and clings to me. I asked if she's considered that maybe our daughter's hurting from her criticism and broken promises. My wife feels she's doing better than her parents. She said all our daughter knows is the grandpa and grandma who adore her over FaceTime. She doesn't know what they were like. Her childhood was staying in a child's place, doing what was expected of you, representing the family, and attitudes weren't tolerated. There wasn't a problem they couldn't solve with a belt. My wife said she doesn't believe in the belt as discipline, but she doesn't know how to be with our daughter and fears she's aggressive when communicating, so she leaves our daughter to me. She doesn't feel she's good as a mother to an older child or with expressing personal feelings. She said I knew what her parents were like. She's right. My in-laws ran an unforgiving household. My wife was pretty much a latchkey kid. My FIL was always working, and my MIL was busy with her community engagements. Feelings were compared to complaining, and there were certain expectations of my wife. I was 17 and my wife was 19 when we had our daughter. Of course the circumstances weren't ideal, but my in-laws made you feel their disapproval. There wasn't support to be found from them. They told my wife that if she was grown enough to make a baby, then she was grown enough to take on the responsibilities on her own. My in-laws have mellowed out a lot now, but my wife is no contact with them. She used her business to pay off their house, and that was that. I'm the buffer between them. I'm accustomed to being my wife's protector. That was always our dynamic. Especially during the pregnancy, when everyone had commentary, were comedians, or when guys would talk about her. Looking back, I think that's part of why I made excuses for her actions with our daughter. I told my wife that I'm in love with her, but our daughter can't be at the expense of our relationship. We're at a crossroads. Something needed to change. Counseling isn't an option anymore. It's happening for our daughter and me. I want for us to come through this as a family. If she refuses counseling, I'd respect her decision, but her answer would give me my answer on what I needed to do for the best of our daughter. We'd have to separate for the time being. My wife said if it's between counseling or losing our family, then she chooses counseling. She wants to keep working on our marriage and reconnecting as a family. We're not props. I asked if this was what she really wanted. If we do this, it can't be her showing up in word only but looking for any reason to skip out. She said what we built means something to her, and losing that has become more real to her now. I talked with our daughter about her feelings on counseling too. I didn't just want to randomly throw an appointment on her. She was pretty open to the idea. I think it's because she's close with my parents and she knows they do counseling. My wife and I are officially in counseling. We're trying a conjoint therapy approach for right now. It's a new experience for us. Prior to this, my wife was never big on counseling, but she has been showing up. She hasn't flaked. There has been some improvement with my wife and daughter. My wife has pulled back on criticism and asking our daughter questions. Recently, we went to an amusement park as a family, and they had a good time together on some rides. My wife asked to pair with our daughter on a few games too. It was the first time in a long time I saw them share a laugh. Nothing's perfect. We're in the early stages. I know my wife and daughter's relationship will be a long road. I know how it pans out isn't up to me, but I'm here to support our daughter in whatever she needs. It's what the future holds, but I want to be hopeful for my family. Maybe it's not too late. I want the best for everyone involved. Our daughter will be starting middle school soon, and I told my wife that she'll need both of us. I'm hoping this road isn't the end of my family. I want us to have to come through this together. When I chose a life with her, it wasn't because we were having a baby, so let's stick together. It was because I love her and want to be with her. I want to make this work. Thank you to everyone again. I appreciate the support, it's much appreciated. TLDR Update 4, my family's broken, and I'm trying to reassemble the pieces. My wife's an extreme workaholic, and it's come between our families. We're not in a good place. Our daughter's caregiving is solely on me. My wife and daughter's time together is mostly short replies/silence. We're working on reconnecting, but we had a bad fight. She's given up on trying to connect with our daughter. She said she's not good at it, and she's just going to stay in her lane. She feels she can't do anything right in our daughter's eyes. It was our worst fight in a while. Now we're at an impasse. In a lot of ways, I feel like a single parent. I'm failing to help their relationship. I just want everyone to be okay. How do I mend my wife's and daughter's relationship while also repairing my marriage? Stories number 9. My boyfriend admitted he orchestrated our meet cute. I have no idea how I feel about what he told me. I want to think it's cute that he cared this much, but it's just coming off as creepy and I feel lied to. He got drunk because we were celebrating my first successful day at my clinicals and he ended up saying something along the lines of, "Could you believe we wouldn't be this happy if I hadn't watched you for so long?" To which I was confused and didn't know what he meant. Well, I had worked at a local library for 2 years, before we met, during college, and apparently he saw me there but didn't actually talk to me. He just would watch me and listen in on my conversations with the people I was checking out and my coworkers to figure out what I liked. Then he apparently followed me and found the coffee shop I frequented. All this time I thought we had a sweet first-time meeting story. He accidentally bumped into me, apologized, and offered to buy me coffee for the trouble. He told me what he was ordering and it was the exact same thing I always get, and I thought it was an amazing coincidence. I joked that it was fate and we spent like an hour talking over coffee. I feel so stupid. Apparently it was similar to a scene in a book that I had read and told my coworker I had thought was cute. I'm just so frustrated and angry. I feel betrayed, like why would you do this? And how much of our 1.5-year relationship is a lie? Like it sounds like he was stalking me. Edit, just so we're all on the same page, I don't believe he was watching me the whole time I was working there. I think it was the last 6 months or so before I actually met him. He is a bit socially awkward, but he has a group of friends that he plays D&D and hangs out with like once a week. He's 25 and I'm 22, so it's not a weird age gap. I have never really considered him going through my phone weird because I basically let anyone look at my phone whenever. I'm not worried about anyone seeing anything. I've also never really been worried about my safety with him before, but I do know that he has anger issues and has gotten in trouble for getting into a few physical fights, so for those of you worried about me, I will be watching for any signs I might have missed. I mainly am just upset because I feel like our relationship was built on a lie, even if it was a smallish one. He also said he was interested in a lot of the same things I was when we first met, and for a while he kept up with them, but lately he hasn't at all, and I'm now wondering if he lied about those things too. I definitely need to have a conversation with him, and I'm driving home now, so I'll talk with him when I get there. Thanks for the feedback, folks. The following edit was made by my ex, but I'll leave it here so you can see it. Edit, I was wrong. He has done nothing wrong. Update 1. Hey everyone, I know a lot you have been worried about me and I just wanted to let all of you know that I'm safe. Shit has definitely hit the fan, but at the moment I'm safe. First, no, I didn't make that last edit. My boyfriend went on my phone while I was showering and trying to figure out what I wanted to say to him about everything, and he found and edited my post. He then started yelling at me while I was still in the shower about sharing it online and calling him creepy. At the same time he was guilt-tripping me and telling me that it was romantic and he did it because he loved me. he literally read a few of the comments out loud to me. He barely let me out of the shower, but I did manage to get my clothes on while he was screaming at me. What really freaked me out was that he started listing off things that he could have done to me. I won't list them here because it was extremely gruesome and I don't think it's allowed, but he said that he didn't do those things because he's such a nice guy. The way he described the things he could have done though made me feel like he had genuinely considered doing it. Also, I thought he was only watching me for a few months, apparently it was upwards of a year and it was genuine actual stalking. He had followed me home and to my college campus. He pulled out a collection of my lost hair ties that he kept. I told him that he was scaring me and that we needed to take a break and come back to it later. At that he put a hole in the wall next to my head. I told him that I was leaving after that because fuck that shit, and it was like a switch flipped and he started crying. He got on his knees and begged me to stay and apologized. I ended up accepting his apology because I didn't feel safe leaving. Yesterday morning after he'd left for work I grabbed all my important documents and irreplaceable things before my clinical started and kept them in my car. After my clinical I didn't go back to the apartment. I'm not going to give much more detail than that because he does know my account obviously, and for Andrew, if you're reading this, which we both know you are, please just leave me alone. The person I thought I loved doesn't actually exist and that's heartbreaking. I no longer feel safe with you like I did before and I hate that. Please let's just move on from each other. Update 2. Long story short, my ex-boyfriend ended up being more than a little crazy. I learned that he stalked me for over a year before we started dating and after I learned that he became violent. I have screenshots of threats of violence that he sent me, as well as pictures of some bruises that I have from him. There's also security footage of him attempting to sneak into my place of work to find me. My local police department has been generally unhelpful with their advice and have told me that unless he's actively harming me they can't do anything. This is regardless of all of the evidence I have that he fully intends to hurt and/or kill me. They have taken statements from me and there is a report open though. Do you believe the evidence I have is sufficient to get an order of protection? And if I am going to file one, do I need to have a lawyer? Edit, I've received help, thank you. Update 3. Honestly I just want to scream into the void because this is annoying as shit. It's scary too, but I'm mostly just fed up with it. Like I'm not even that pretty, why did you latch onto me? Why did you decide to constantly text and call me after we broke up? On that note, did you think threatening to murder me would woo me back into your arms? Showing up at my clinicals is also really shitty, and not even because I'm scared, but because telling my educator and the hospital I'm trying to learn at that my ex-boyfriend is psycho is embarrassing for me. Also, low-key embarrassed that I dated a guy without knowing he stalked me for over a year prior to our relationship. Not to mention I'm spiraling between laughing hysterically at what my life has come to and just wanting to straight up end it all because I'm so tired of being on edge all the time. It'd be easier to just sleep and not wake up. I haven't gotten a full night of sleep in weeks though, so, thanks. Also, literally self-defense stuff is so expensive, I hate it so much. Like yes, my safety is important, but who has this much money to spend? But I have to spend it because even the cops say they can't help unless he's actively attacking me, and getting a protective order is great and all, but it doesn't mean shit if they won't follow it. Ugh. Fuck you asshole, you know who you are. Stories number 10. Aita for snapping after my MIL insulted my entire family's bloodline. I don't even know where to start. My stomach's still in knots. So last weekend, we were at my husband's cousin's barbecue. It was chill at first. I tried to keep to myself, just helping in the kitchen, small talk, that kind of thing. Then she showed up. His mom. She's always had this weird thing about me. Like she's nice on the surface but low-key says the most insulting crap with a smile on her face. Thinks she's slick. Anyway, she pulls me aside while I'm setting out plates and goes, "So, have your family always been like that?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And she goes, "Oh, you know. Loud. All over the place. Like they didn't grow up with proper structure." And then she laughs. I laughed too. Out of shock. Because what? Is she calling my family animals? I didn't even know how to respond. But I didn't want a scene, so I just walked away. Later, while everyone was eating, she made this joke about how certain families breed recklessness, and she looked right at me while saying it. Some people even laughed. Like it was funny. Like she wasn't basically trashing my parents, my siblings, my roots. I tried to let it go. I did. But when I got home, I just lost it. I told my husband everything. I was shaking. Crying. I said I didn't care if she was his mom, I wanted him to talk to her. Set boundaries. He got quiet. Then he said, "She's just old school. Don't take it personal." Excuse me? He said I was being too sensitive. That I read too much into it. That I always overreact when it comes to his mom. And I just snapped. I said, no, you just don't react at all. You let her say whatever the hell she wants about me, and now about my family too. We haven't talked much since. He's been sleeping on the couch. I keep thinking maybe I did overreact. But like, would you let someone talk like that about your family and just eat your damn potato salad like nothing happened? I don't even want to be around her anymore. But I know cutting her off will just make things worse with my husband. I feel stuck, so I need to ask Aita. Stories number 11. I just found out that my stepfather, 53M, and been talking to my dad at his graveyard, and it's the sweetest thing. My dad passed away 15 years ago when I was 9, my brother was 14, and my sister was 16. I won't go into detail about how he died, but he was struck by a speeding car. My mother waited 3 years before starting to date again, and then she met Robert. Robert is a great stepfather. My brother and I call him Dad, while my sister calls him Rob. He has never tried to replace our dad and always shows respect for him. When you meet Rob, you can tell he is a bubbly and friendly guy. He has a way of bringing people out of their shells, and after just 10 minutes of conversation, it feels like you've known him for 10 years. I live farther away from my family since I just completed my bachelor's degree and will be in law school for another 2 years. Because of this, I don't get to visit as often. I usually only go home for holidays and in the summer. Last Thursday, I visited the graveyard and saw my stepdad. At that moment, I knew I shouldn't have, but I had overheard their conversation. My stepdad said something along the lines of, "Oh, and you know how Hannah, my mom, was going out Sunday. Oh, you would have died if you saw her face. Oh wait, I have a photo." I just paused at that moment. It was like watching two friends talking and sharing a beer. I walked up and asked my stepfather what they were talking about, and he was still laughing and just said, "Oh look," and he was holding a photo of my mom with a spilled margarita on her pants while he was red in the face dying from laughter, and I started laughing too. We all started to talk about stuff in life and I left 30 minutes later. This was the most wholesome moment, and after I asked him how often he visits my dad and he told me every week with my mom, but this week my mom was busy. This was so sweet and I'm so happy that he visits my dad. These were all fake names BTW. Stories number 12. A date tried convincing me that obtaining an illegal abortion in red states is easy and simple. I am still so annoyed over this interaction. I was on a second date with a guy and somehow politics came up. I basically said something like, "I'm not a single-issue voter, but overturning Roe v. Wade pushed me over the edge." He said that was understandable and that he was pro-choice too. But he then went on a long rant about how abortion rates haven't fallen at all and that it is simple and easy to get an abortion in a red state still. I called bullshit and he pulled the whole, "You wouldn't know, you've lived in blue states your whole life. I actually live down south so I know" card. I tried reasoning with him. I said even if there are clinics that will still perform them, the vast majority do not, and most people would not know that, and would not be shopping around, especially in emergency situations. He chalked it all up to me being basically ignorant and not knowing what I'm talking about, which infuriated me. He said since it's illegal there is no proof to back up anything he knows to be true. He even had the nerve to say, "I live down south so this hits close to home for me." I quipped back, "I had an abortion so this also hits close to home for me." That immediately shut him up, thank God. Suffice to say I blocked him afterwards, but it's had me thinking. There is no possible way he is even remotely correct, right? Any southern ladies care to chime in? I'd like to know more. Thank you. Stories number 13. Aita for not letting my SIL's kid order an adult meal for my wedding. I, 29F, am getting married in early 2026, and we've spent the past year planning this wedding down to the tiniest details. My fiancé, 31M, and I are both pretty organized people, and because our wedding will be semi-formal with a large guest list, we're trying really hard to keep everything under control, especially the budget. One of the bigger expenses: catering. We're paying $150 per adult plate, and that includes a sit-down meal with either steak, chicken, or vegetarian options. We also planned kid meals, chicken tenders and mac and cheese, for any guest under the age of 12, which we made very clear on the RSVP cards. We even wrote, "Guests under the age of 12 will receive a kid's meal." So imagine my confusion when my future brother-in-law and sister-in-law RSVP'd with 3 adult meals and 1 kid's meal. Here's the thing, they have 2 kids, a 7-year-old and a 12-year-old. At first, I figured it was an honest mistake. Maybe they misunderstood, or thought the 12-year-old counted as an adult. So I decided to follow up. I texted my SL, "Hey, I saw your RSVP, thanks for getting it back to us. Just wanted to double check, should it be 2 adult meals and 2 kids meals? I saw one of your kids is under 12. She replied with a casual, nope, it's correct, will be 13 just a few weeks after the wedding. She eats like an adult, so we figured it'd make more sense. Okay. No apology. No offer to pay for the difference. Just, assumed it was fine. I explained, politely, that we were sticking to the age limit for a reason. It wasn't personal. We have a lot of kids attending the wedding, and making exceptions for one opens a door for chaos. Also, $150 for a plate is not chump change. I told her, if she wants to eat the adult chicken plate, that's fine, she can switch plates at the reception if another guest is willing. But we need to count her as a child for the caterer. That's when things escalated. SL writes back, so let me get this straight, you intentionally left, daughter, out of the bridal party, and now you won't even let her eat a normal meal like the rest of the family. It's kind of cruel. She's almost a teenager. Don't you think you're being a bit petty? Wait. What? This became about the bridal party. For context, I chose my own sister, who is 25, and my 2 best friends, who are adults, to be bridesmaids. SIL's daughter is a sweet kid, but I didn't feel close enough to her to give her a role. Also, she's 12. Not really flower girl age, not quite bridesmaid age. But apparently this had been brewing for a while. I told her, this really has nothing to do with the wedding party. I've tried to be fair to everyone, but we have to draw the line somewhere. The age cutoff is clear. She didn't reply after that. But a few hours later, my fiancé's phone blows up. It's his brother. Calling me cheap. Saying we're making a big deal over one meal and accusing me of trying to embarrass their daughter by giving her a baby meal. Apparently, his daughter is now upset because she thinks we don't see her as grown up enough. I get it. It sucks to feel left out. But I'm not running a restaurant. This isn't some buffet where people just pick what they want. I've spent months coordinating guest counts and meal preferences with the caterer. I've already had to make sacrifices. And now, they want me to make a symbolic gesture by spending $150 extra to make up for not giving their daughter a bridesmaid sash. To be clear, no other parent has pushed back on the kid meal thing. Even my own nieces and nephews, some of whom are closer to the 12-year-old mark, are happily accepting the chicken tenders and mac and cheese. Now, my fiancé is telling me to back off and let him handle it. He's not upset with me, he agrees his brother and SIL are overreacting, but he's trying to keep the peace and thinks it's not worth the fight. But honestly, I'm still annoyed. It's not about the money at this point, it's about the entitlement. About the guilt tripping. About trying to twist a simple boundary into some personal attack on a child. I even had my own sister call me saying, hey, I know you're stressed, but maybe just give the kid the meal. It's only one plate, and you don't need more drama. But if I do that, then what happens when another family member says, well, my 11-year-old has a big appetite too? Or, can we switch our kid to the steak instead? If I make an exception for one person, I risk a domino effect. And I'm tired. I just want to enjoy my wedding day, so, Aita for not letting my soon-to-be niece order an adult meal and sticking to our RSVP policy. Or are they being entitled and turning something simple into a whole saga? Update. 1 month before the wedding. Well, things didn't cool off. After I posted, a lot of you reassured me that my boundary was reasonable, thank you. I read every comment, and honestly, you all helped me feel less like I was losing my mind. Anyway, I didn't cave. I stuck to the original plan. My fiancé backed me up and told his brother, again, that the RSVP policy was clear and final. Adult meals were for guests 13 and older on the day of the wedding, not almost 13, or emotionally 13, or mature for their age. We thought that would be the end of it. Oh, but we were wrong. Last week, we got a call from my future MIL. She wanted to mediate. Apparently, SIL had been venting in the family group chat, one I'm conveniently not in, and painted a whole picture of me being cruel and exclusionary. She said I was punishing her daughter and humiliating her by assigning her a baby plate when she's nearly a teen. My MIL tried to be diplomatic, but I could hear in her voice that she was trying to talk me into just giving in. It's one plate, sweetheart. Maybe just call it a gesture of goodwill. At this point, I kind of snapped. I told her, calmly but firmly, this is exactly why I didn't put niece in the wedding party. Because everything with SIL becomes dramatic. There are dozens of kids coming to this wedding. If we make an exception here, where do we stop? She didn't have an answer. Just a sigh and an, I understand, but you know how she is. Yeah, I do. That's the problem. Fast forward to this past weekend. We had a pre-wedding brunch with both sides of the family. It was casual, a nice way to get people together before the big day. Everyone was there, except Sil, Bal, and their kids. When my fiancé texted his brother, he got a one-liner back. We figured it wasn't worth showing up since we're not welcome. Really? Now his whole side of the family is walking on eggshells, and my fiancé is feeling a ton of pressure to smooth things over. He's been handling it better than I expected, but I can tell it's wearing on him. He said to me last night, "I want to marry you more than anything. But if my brother pulls something on the wedding day, I swear I'm going to lose it." So now we're in a weird limbo. Technically, they're still attending. But I don't trust that they won't show up in some sort of silent protest. Like having their daughter throw a fit about the kids' meal. Or accidentally switching place cards. Or just sulking through the reception to make a point. The worst part. Their daughter, the actual child at the center of all this, hasn't done anything wrong. She's a sweet kid. I really feel bad for her. She doesn't deserve to be in the middle of this power struggle. Anyway, we're 31 days out from the wedding, and the seating chart is locked in, the caterers are confirmed, and I've made my peace with how we're handling it. But man, if this is what I get over a single dinner plate, I can only imagine what the actual wedding day will bring. Final update, after the wedding. We did it. We got married. It was beautiful, chaotic, emotional, and yes, there was drama. But not quite the kind I expected. So here's how it went down. First, thank you to everyone who encouraged me to stick to my boundaries. You were right. Letting one person bend the rules for their convenience would have spiraled. And I'm so glad we didn't cave. The morning of the wedding, everything was going according to schedule. Vendors were on time, weather was perfect, and I even had a quiet moment to myself before the ceremony, something I didn't think I'd get. I felt calm. Really calm, until 90 minutes before the ceremony. My maid of honor comes in, looking pale. Your fiancé's brother and Sil are here. Early. And, she's already arguing with the catering manager. Yup, turns out, they showed up with their kids already dressed, including the 12-year-old, who was now wearing a custom-made sash that read, "Almost a teen, not a child." I thought she was joking. She wasn't. When the catering manager politely reminded them that their daughter had a kid's meal, Sil went full Karen. She claimed we were publicly humiliating her child, and that the sash was to make a point about how we refused to treat her like a young woman. To my eternal relief, my fiancé took his brother outside and handled it. I don't know exactly what he said, but it ended with the sash being removed, the family staying seated where they were assigned, and the girl eating her chicken tenders and mac and cheese quietly like every other kid. Shockingly, the rest of the day went fine. Our ceremony was beautiful. My parents cried. His mom cried. Everyone danced, laughed, and had an amazing time. The food was incredible. The DJ nailed the energy. I wore my dream dress and felt more like myself than I have in years. I didn't even realize until the next day that Sil and Bal left early, no goodbyes, no congratulations. Just disappeared around cake cutting time. I'm not mad. I didn't have the emotional bandwidth to care by then. Later that week, we got a text from Bal that read, "Hope your big day was everything you wanted. Sorry we weren't in a celebratory mood. We'll catch up soon." We haven't heard from them since. And you know what? That's okay. Weddings have a way of showing you who people really are. Who respects your choices? Who centers themselves? Who shows up for you? I didn't let one entitled guest hijack the most important day of my life, and I think that's something I'll always be proud of. Because it wasn't about a $150 dinner plate. It was about boundaries. And learning that love doesn't mean tolerating disrespect, not even from family. So, no regrets. Just gratitude, growth, and the start of something beautiful. Stories number 14. Aita for telling my mom she can't rewrite the past just because it makes her uncomfortable. Growing up, our home was chaotic. My mom yelled a lot, slammed doors, gave us the silent treatment for days, and made me feel like I was walking on eggshells. She never hit us, but the emotional side of it was heavy. I used to cry myself to sleep more times than I can count. And any time I brought it up, she'd say I was being dramatic. Now I'm 27 and she's suddenly in her healing and reflection phase. She started posting on social media about how amazing and peaceful our childhood was, how she always raised us with patience and love. At a recent family gathering, she told my cousins how proud she was that she gave us such a safe home. I didn't say anything then, but it really bothered me. Later that week, I told her how uncomfortable it makes me when she talks like that, like none of the hard stuff ever happened. I told her she doesn't get to rewrite the past just because the truth makes her uncomfortable. She got really defensive and said I was stuck in the past and trying to make her feel like a bad mom. Now some people in the family are saying I was too harsh and that she's trying. But I don't think pretending nothing happened is the same as making peace with it. So am I the asshole for calling it out? Stories number 15. I just found out what my fiancé goes through every night and I feel helpless. What do I do? When my fiancé, Lily, 22F, and I, 23M, first moved in together, I always fell asleep before her and woke up after her because of my job. So for a while, I had no idea what was happening at night. Lily has severe, violent childhood trauma and doesn't like to talk about it. Recently, I discovered something that really worries me and I don't know how to help her, especially because she doesn't want help. She told me that from ages 9 to 12, she had intense panic attacks every night. They stopped between 13 and 16, but after she was kicked out of her home at 16, they came back and never stopped. Now, every night, Lily goes through a cycle, pacing the house, falling in and out of panic attacks and sleep, shaking, then eventually calming down. She can't stand the dark, so every light in the house is on. She also can't sleep in our bedroom because I can't fall asleep with all the lights on. She insists she's fine and has been managing with her own coping method since she was a kid. She's adamant she doesn't need or want help. But it's hard for me to just lie in bed knowing what's going on. I want to help her. I'd do anything. But I don't know where to start and she doesn't want me to tell a soul. Stories number 16. I took a suicide investigations class and am having trouble processing videos of people hanging themselves. If this is not an appropriate topic, please delete it and I won't be offended. I don't really have anyone to talk to about this and it's been bothering me. Edit to clarify, I am not suicidal. I hope anyone reading this post will reconsider if they are contemplating this route, as it's a pretty terrible way to go. I am a crime scene tech. I love my job and am overall able to handle it. I'm one of those unique, slightly fucked up people who has the gift of an off switch and can be relatively emotionless in the face of gore and someone having the literal worst day of their life. However, I recently took a training course on suicide investigations. During this course, the instructor shared a lot of videos of people carrying out various forms of self-obliteration. As it turns out, a lot of people film themselves. Bullets. Helium. Knives. I've observed, photographed, and written reports on the aftermath of all of that. In general, I have no problem with this, but do you know what it looks like to hang? It's not clean and quick like an execution. The body just doesn't go straight like a board with a surprised look on your face and then you're slack-jawed and dead. In all of the cases, first they flapped and gasped like a fish out of water. You can see the pain. The struggling was instinctive and animal-like. Then the agonal breathing, the chest inflating and the spine bending backward. Then the twitching, mostly in the arms and the legs. They looked like dying bugs. I watched a 10-year-old hang themselves from a tree. You could see them double think, and he tried to jump to cling to the tree, but apparently unconsciousness happens quickly and he fell back. Then he was just twitching and agonal breathing for a few minutes. When he finally stopped moving, their body was all contorted until the muscles lost strength. Just like with dismemberment, the movies really get it wrong, lol. No wonder they snap the neck when they execute people this way. I've worked a few hangings before. I never realized what the person went through in the moments leading up to how I would later meet them. In 3 years, I've processed around 600 scenes with approximately 150 bodies. This is the first thing I've encountered where I just can't stop thinking about it and it's messing me up. I don't really need any responses. Thanks for reading, sorry about the nightmares. Stories number 17. Aita for telling my friend to mind her own business about my weight loss. I 38F weighed at my highest 351 pounds. Under the care of my doctor, in combination with a few other health issues, decided that my habits were the problem. I had/have an unhealthy relationship regarding food. I had never seriously attempted to lose weight, and medications and fad diets will never work for me. So, I decided to do it the harder way, dealing with my issues. Over the last year I managed to lose 54 pounds and am for the first time in 6 years under 300 pounds. I am in no way done with working on myself, but nonetheless proud that the number is going down. I made a post on my FB just stating, down 54 pounds, finally moving in the right direction, that was it. Yesterday, we grilled out and invited some of my husband's friends. I wouldn't consider them my own friends because if not for my husband I wouldn't socialize with them. I am extremely uncomfortable eating around people, always have been since childhood. I didn't start gaining weight until my late 20s. I am working on eating around people. I ate what I would normally eat if I were alone. I had 1 burger, 1 hot dog, some beans, and chips and a Pepsi and later a brownie. Here's the issue, none of what I ate is what most people would consider healthy. I know that. But where I am not looking to supplement my diet yet. I'm working on the habits, and my attitude about food. Clearly, still working as this has set me off, the amount I ate however, was perfectly fine. The wife of my husband's friend looked at my plate and said, "I guess you're done with your diet." I just commented, "I'm not on a diet." She said, "According to FBUR, you're bragging about your weight loss." I said I wasn't bragging necessarily, I was just proud that I'm doing better. She replied with a very snarky tone, "How is that?" while nodding her head towards my plate. I also get extremely agitated when questioned and am made to feel I have to justify everything I do. Her tone and her accusatory comments set me off, so yes, I snapped a little and said, "I don't see how any of this is your business, so don't worry about it." She got a huffy and said, "Yeah, you're really improving," and walked back inside. Her husband, my husband friend, told me that was uncalled for, and I said, "So is her questioning me and judging me?" He rolled his eyes and that was the end of it. Maybe I am sensitive, always have been about food, but one of the things me and my therapist talk about is how I think people are judging me when in fact no one probably cares about what I'm eating or am doing. I'm learning to understand that I'm not being judged under a microscope. But her tone, and her facial expressions were extremely judgmental. My husband agrees with me, he's not a big fan of hers though, so maybe he's biased, but I keep replaying it over and over. I just didn't want to explain it all to a woman I barely know when I was trying to just have a good time. Stories number 18. Aita for telling my MIL to stop dumping her old stuff in our new house. Okay. So my husband and I just moved into our first real home. Not an apartment, not a rental, ours. It's small, but it's clean, fresh, ours. I was so excited. We've been saving for this for years. Picking the colors, the furniture, all that. But then his mom shows up with boxes. Boxes. Not gifts, not a housewarming cake, her old kitchen crap, random curtains, mismatched plates, a used toaster from like 2008. I kid you not, there was a damn blender that smelled like old soup. No joke. She says she's helping. Helping us get started. But it's not help. It's clutter. It's her way of inserting herself into everything. She doesn't ask. She just dumps the stuff off and acts like we're ungrateful when we don't jump for joy over a scratched up coffee table with a wobbly leg. I tried to let it go. I did. I smiled. I said thank you the first few times. I figured, okay, maybe it's sentimental to her. Maybe this is just her way of being nice. But it didn't stop. It got worse. One day I came home and found her rearranging my kitchen. My kitchen. She had swapped out our new dish set with hers. She even put up these old floral curtains that look like they came from a 90s nursing home. I nearly lost it. So I finally said something. Calm but direct. I told her, "We just bought this house. We're excited to make it ours. Please don't bring any more of your old things. Let us buy our own." She looked stunned. Then came the guilt trip. I was just trying to help. "You think you're too good for my things now?" And then she stormed out. My husband. He just stood there. Said nothing. Later he told me I could have said it nicer. Nicer? I've been swallowing my irritation for weeks. I finally stood up for our space and suddenly I'm the bad guy. Now I feel awful. I don't want drama. But I also don't want to live in a second-hand museum curated by my MIL. So yeah. I said what I said. I set a boundary. But now I'm being painted as rude, ungrateful, even classist. I don't know. I'm tired. I just wanted our home to feel like us, not like a storage unit for her leftovers. Was I too harsh? Should I have kept my mouth shut just to keep the peace? Stories number 19. A man's spiral into addiction to over-the-counter allergy meds. How has DPH affected your life? I'm curious as to how y'all found out about DPH, why you started using it recreationally, and how it has affected your life, both negatively and positively. I know your experiences will be subjective and personal only to you, but I'm still curious. I first found out about DPH on Jan/20th, 2019 after smoking marijuana with a couple of my friends the previous night. We had been talking about getting some LSD, shrooms, and other hallucinogens, but I had never tried those drugs and I honestly didn't have the money at the time to buy them. So instead, I went searching on Google for cheap and legal substances that I could take as a substitute hallucinogenic. I found a website with like 10 different legal types of substances that I could buy to hallucinate on, but unfortunately the one that caught my attention the most was DPH. I went farther on the internet to research in depth about the long-term and short-term side effects of abusing DPH, the physical symptoms of a DPH overdose, various people's trip experiences on different amounts of DPH, where to buy a large quantity of the cheapest off-brand DPH, and looked at several drug/alcohol interactions with DPH. I did not end up taking DPH until February 15, 2019. My first trip was on 450 mg DPH and it was horrible honestly. I wasn't smart about it at all. I remember taking it with 6 cans of beer around 11 p.m. under some random highway. I remember walking aimlessly around town, kept falling, kept slurring my speech, and ended up asking the local PD to drive me to the ER. It was pretty stupid of me. But anyways, since February 15th, I've probably ingested over 1,000 pills of DPH and my tolerance has gotten extremely high to where it takes at least 32 pills to get me even a little high. So, basically that's a very brief summary of how I got this way. You can ask me questions about my experience here and I'll answer y'all if you want any more details. 2,250 mg of DPH. It probably wasn't the best idea to take 90 pills. 2,250 trip report. Sorry for leaving y'all hanging for a day. I don't really remember much of what happened in the past 48 hours. All I can definitively say is that I had 5 seizures. I set up a room vid cam to monitor me to see if I had any seizures. I didn't sleep. I ran a fever of 104.9 which didn't break until a couple hours ago. I wasn't able to keep any food or drink down, so I'm like really parched lol. I fainted twice at my college, and now I have a severe headache/hangover from that big dose. Again, I'm sorry for worrying y'all. I don't even remember posting that I had taken 90 pills, so I must have posted it when I was blacked out. Currently have ingested 4,500 mg and will be ingesting 9,000 mg tomorrow afternoon. Do you ever just break down and cry? Do you ever just realize your life has no purpose and you don't care if you die? Do you ever just want your loved ones to not worry so when they ask you if you're okay, you lie? I've been so angry with the world and myself and everyone in it. I hate that I'm so mad all the time, because I'm usually a very kind, patient, and compassionate person. This uncontrollable rage has been building up inside my mind for the past several days and it terrifies me thinking about what damage I'm capable of doing. I need it to stop. I need everything to stop. I can't do this anymore. I'm so alone and I don't want to be here. P.S. I know that there is a high chance of me surviving 13.5G, but I'm posting this just in case I succeed. If you are new to this sub and have never tried DPH, I strongly urge you to leave this hell site before you're sucked into this endless black hole of terror, pain, and confusion. Editor's note, most of the posts in between this one and the next two alternate between OOP lamenting his addiction, expressing surprise at his still being alive, and showing how much DPH he's taking. For the sake of brevity and not boring all of you, I am omitting all but the last of these posts, followed by a report of the unfortunate aftermath. The Void covered this in more detail in a video on the disturbing side of Reddit, which I will link here. The link should take you to the chapter that discusses this. I am saddened to report that Faking 2 has passed away at 20 years old after a lengthy battle with diphenhydramine, DPH, addiction. In the afternoon hours of September 22, 2020, Faking 2 is believed to have taken his own life via an intentional overdose of DPH. The average person will better recognize DPH under the brand name Benadryl. Benadryl is an over-the-counter drug which is commonly used at therapeutic doses as an antihistamine or sleep aid. At recreational doses, DPH notoriously induces a state of delirium, and users will experience realistic, and oftentimes disturbing, visual and auditory hallucinations. Most chronic DPH abusers, including Faking 2 himself, report that they find the DPH high to be extremely dysphoric and unenjoyable, but still feel an overwhelming compulsion to continue to abuse DPH. The reason for this counterintuitive response is not medically understood. Due to low cost and ease of access, DPH abuse is a growing problem around the world. Recent social media trends, such as TikTok's Benadryl challenge, have only exacerbated this issue, particularly among young teens. I cannot stress enough just how bad DPH abuse is for the human brain. Do not be fooled by its unassuming over-the-counter status. In my opinion, chronic DPH addiction is on a comparable level of seriousness to addictions to hard drugs such as heroin or methamphetamine. Chronic use, especially at higher doses, is linked to a myriad of negative physical and psychological effects, including heart issues, memory issues, partial vision hearing loss, loss of motor function, depression, suicidal ideation, brain fog, persisting hallucinations, and much, much more. Recovering addicts will still experience these symptoms, in addition to unbearable psychological withdrawal symptoms, for months or even years after stopping all drug use. Due to its relative obscurity, organized research on DPH abuse is extremely limited, but anecdotal reports suggest that some physical and psychological damage may be permanent. As difficult as the recovery process may be, death via DPH overdose is a notoriously horrible way to die. Out of respect for you tired of faking too, I will not go into detail in this post about what these overdoses are like. Suffice it to say, I hope this individual has finally found peace. I'm honestly quite sad how many new people, especially teens, are taking this drug recreationally. I don't want anyone else to have to experience the pure agony, terror, and confusion DPH has caused me. Stories number 20. I, 30F, am so sad about the present my BF, 34M, got me for my birthday. He got me a pan and a knife. They're both nice, but honestly, I do 99% of the cooking. It used to be something I enjoy, but it's become a job, something that I do because it works for our household and dynamic. I don't hate it, but when he is gone, more often than not the only appliance I use is the microwave. What hurts is that he was discussing buying that exact pan for the house anyway, so it just doesn't even feel like something special for me. It also hurts because I gave him a list of things that I really wanted: skincare, workout clothes, jewelry. It's really simple, painfully basic shit, and he knows I like these things. I gave him low-cost options, I gave him options that are slightly more expensive. He had a lot to choose from and just ignored it. When I opened the box for the pan, I think my face dropped. I thought I had recovered it, but he sat there saying that he failed and got incredibly upset. He has a thing about letting people down, so I remedied what I could and I think that fixed things. A few years ago he got me a Lego set for Christmas. I like Lego but not enough to want it as a Christmas gift. We were also struggling for money and I suggested kindly he return it so he could take me out for a nice dinner instead, so we could just spend time together, and also explained that I wouldn't have enough room in my apartment to display or store it. He called me ungrateful and he stopped buying presents for a while. This is why I am scared to remotely indicate that what he gave me is not a great gift for me. I know I just need to let it go, but what else can I do in the future to prevent this from happening? Stories number 21. Aita for telling my sister her fiancé reminds me of our abusive stepdad. I'm 28 and my younger sister is 25. She just got engaged, and while everyone else is congratulating her and acting excited, I'm feeling sick every time I see this guy. He's not aggressive or openly cruel, so I get why other people don't see it. But there's something about him that feels really familiar, and not in a good way. The way he talks to her, the way he jokes at her expense in front of people, the way he always needs to be right or make her second guess herself. It's subtle, but it's there. And it reminds me way too much of our stepdad. Growing up, our stepdad wasn't physically abusive, but he was emotionally manipulative and constantly controlling. He would humiliate us with jokes, tell us how to dress, and make us feel like we were walking on eggshells all the time. It took me years to unlearn that stuff and even longer to recognize it when I saw it in other people. Last week we were all at dinner and her fiancé told her to change her top before we left because it made her look desperate. Then he laughed like it was funny. She laughed too, but I saw her face. She was embarrassed. Then when she mentioned maybe going back to work part-time, he basically told her there was no point and said, "We don't need your little paycheck." Everyone else just brushed it off. I couldn't. So the next day I called her and told her how I felt. I didn't accuse him of anything. I just said, "Hey, I love you, but some of the ways he talks to you, it reminds me of how stepdad used to talk to us. And that scares me." She completely blew up at me. Said I was projecting my issues onto her life, that I can't stand seeing her happy, and that I've always been critical of the men she dates. She even told me I was ruining the best time of her life. Now she's barely speaking to me. My mom says I should have kept my opinions to myself. But I feel like if I hadn't said anything and something worse happens down the line, I'd never forgive myself. So now I'm just stuck wondering, did I cross a line? Was it wrong to say something? Or did I do the right thing and just hit a nerve? Am I the asshole? Stories number 22. Aita for telling my OCD roommate to get over it. I am Jewish. My roommate is not. I asked her if it was okay with her if I put a mezuzah by our front door. For those who don't know, this is a small rectangular case that is affixed to the wall or doorframe that holds a scroll. We are supposed to have it by our front door. She said it was fine. I ordered one and put it up. The mezuzah is supposed to tilt a little toward the door, and not be straight up and down. I hung it the correct way, and she got angry, saying she needed it to be straight. I informed her that it isn't traditionally hung that way. I did straighten it a little, but kept a slight tilt. She was still angry about it. Like, screaming angry. I reminded her that I endure the absolute explosion of Christmas decorations every year, and never complain. And this was just a little piece of metal. She said this was different, since it set off her OCD. I said I would just take it down, then. So I took it down, and there were holes in the wall where I had screwed it into the wall. I paid for maintenance to fill them, but the fill he used is a slightly different shade than the rest of the wall. Apparently that also sets off her OCD, and she is angry with me now. I was just so done with the whole situation, and said she really just needs to get over it. She said I was TA for saying that, since she has OCD. Is she right? Stories number 23. Aita had a big fight with a friend on a trip because she said, I'm prettier than you. So I, 27F, have been on a 5-day trip with a friend, 28F, and today is our last day. We've been friends for about 5 years and have never fought like this before. This is our first trip together. I know she is a bit looks obsessed, but I didn't think she would stoop this low. So this is how it started. We went to the hotel breakfast area yesterday and we were just chatting as we waited in the line. I was just like, OMG, I must look so tired, and she was like, yeah, same here. I was like, nah girl, you look so refreshed. I was complimenting her. She really didn't look tired at all. She was like, no, trust me, I am tired. I am just prettier than you, that's why I look good. I immediately was taken aback and asked, what's that supposed to mean? She then shrugged and said, it's exactly what it means. I didn't want to make a scene at the breakfast area, so I waited until we went back to the hotel room to confront her on her comment. By the way, we are roughly the same level of attractiveness. We are both fairly average, cute-looking women of color. I am of East African descent, she is South Asian. When we went back to the hotel room I was like, that is so weird of you to start talking about I'm prettier than you. Were you secretly comparing and competing with me the whole time? She was like, you're just too sensitive. I was just being honest, we can't all have everything. You have things I don't have either. I said, no, you clearly are just a very shallow person and you're not the type of person I want to be friends with. She was like, you're just wasting my time. I want to enjoy this trip and you're getting mad over nothing. We went back and forth a couple times until I was like, fuck this, you're not even worth it. Quickly got ready for the day and left without her. Today is our last day. I have barely spoken to her except when absolutely necessary and went out and did sightseeing without her. I don't see myself ever speaking to her again after we get back home tbh. Am I really being too sensitive? Or was her comment out of line? Stories number 24. I wanted to get back with wanted a $20,000 engagement ring to give me another chance. Long story short, dated a friend and we broke up quickly because she had a lot of emotional issues. Almost a year after the breakup, we were trying to fix things again. We're both ready to settle, and she had told me she would only consider getting back if I get her a $20,000 engagement ring. My income is really high, so she claimed that the ring will feel like nothing if it's cheaper because in terms of my income, $20,000 is reasonable. I'm like, no, that's stupid. We still kept talking and meeting up, but she was still adamant that the only way for her to know I'm being serious about dating again is if we got engaged as soon as we start again. I didn't think she was being too serious, but she kept bringing it up. For context, she was with her ex for over 10 years and was waiting for a ring but never got one and then left him. And she's Chinese, so she's always felt family pressure to be married by her age. Anyway, obviously I didn't get her any ring because that would be obviously stupid. Stories number 25. You're just a tenant, I'm the landlord's sister. This happened 2 months ago when I moved into a new apartment. It's a small complex with just 4 units, and I honestly loved how quiet it was until the landlord's sister decided to show up. At first, I didn't know who she was. She just started showing up randomly, watering the plants in the shared courtyard, walking into the laundry room without knocking, and giving unsolicited advice on how I should properly park my car. One day I'm cooking in my kitchen and I hear the screen door open. I come out and find this woman in my backyard, shared space, but still, moving my flower pots around. I politely asked her what she was doing, and she just goes, oh, I'm the landlord's sister. I helped him decorate this place. These don't look good here. I told her I rented that unit and I will prefer if she didn't move my stuff without asking. She rolled her eyes and literally said, well, you're just a tenant. I'm family. The next week she knocks on my door and asks if I can move out early because she wants to rent the place for her son who is starting over after a breakup. Mind you, I had a signed lease and had been there for barely 2 months. I got pissed off immediately and asked her to leave. Then I called the landlord and reported what was happening. He was horrified, apologized profusely, and told me his sister had no authority whatsoever and wasn't even supposed to be on the property without notice. He had to change the lock on the courtyard gate because she kept letting herself in. Some people really think being family gives them a license to act weird. Stories number 26. AITJ for refusing to move in with my boyfriend after he said I need to earn my place. So my boyfriend asked me to move in, but said I'd need to earn my place first. Not in a cute way, literally said I'd have to prove I was worth living there. He said since it's his name on the lease, I'd need to pay half the bills, do most of the cleaning, and show I'm serious before he'd even consider adding me. We've been together 2 years. I already cook when I'm there, help him out when he's overwhelmed, even supported him when he was unemployed. I'm not trying to freeload, I just didn't expect to be tested like I'm applying for a roommate spot. I said no thanks, and now he's saying I'm not ready for a real relationship. Mutual friends are torn, some say I should have worked with him, others say I should run. It honestly felt more like a power play than a partnership. Now I'm the problem. AITJ. Stories number 27. AIO for correcting my MIL when she introduced my baby as our daughter at a family barbecue. My daughter is 6 months old. My MIL is a very hands-on grandma. She watches my baby once a week and loves to buy her clothes and post pictures. That's fine, but at a family barbecue last weekend, she introduced my baby to one of her cousins as our daughter, meaning hers and my husband's. She said it twice, even after I corrected her the first time. Like, oh yes, she's our little girl, she's the spitting image of her daddy. I interrupted and said, you mean your granddaughter? I tried to keep it light, but she got visibly annoyed and didn't speak to me for the rest of the day. Later, my husband said I was nitpicking and making her feel unwanted. But I feel like there's a weird possessiveness going on and I needed to draw a line. Am I overreacting? Stories number 28. Stranger at the cafe asked me to move tables because she liked my seat better. I was at this little cafe earlier, just enjoying some quiet time by the window. I had my drink, my book, and honestly, I was feeling pretty relaxed. Then this woman walks up to me and says, super casually, would you mind moving? I like this seat. I thought she was kidding. I laughed a little and waited for the punchline, but nope. She meant it. I told her I just sat down and was planning to stay a while, and she looked at me like I'd insulted her or something. No, oh, no worries, or anything, just a glare and a dramatic sigh as she walked off. I don't know, maybe I'm being sensitive, but it just felt weird. Like, since when do people feel that entitled to ask total strangers to give up their seat just because they like the view? Update. Called the cops on me over a seat at Starbucks. I was once fixing a friend's phone at a Starbucks. We both had drinks, and hers was still there. She ran out to grab something I needed to work on the phone. This entitled little twatwaffle marches over and insists they must be allowed to sit there. Half a phone is spread between the 2 seats on the bench, BTW. I relay to them that the seat is in use and in any case, there's no space. They tried the, there's obviously no one here now, bit, with a big stupid voice sarcasm, and then proceeded to sit anyway, and then moved their arms like they were about to try to sweep these tiny little phone screws off the edge. I moved my arm to block them, while still holding this mini screwdriver in my hand. We argue back and forth for a hot minute and it's clear they're not giving up, but I'm not done and not moving either. This little shikablin picks up their phone and goes, I'm going to call the police if you don't stop. I laugh and go, fine, go right ahead. So they fucking do. Right as I'm sitting there, staring at me, they get this big shit-eating grin on their face and say, and then she threatened to stab me with a screwdriver. I let out the biggest incredulous laugh and go, you know that's fucking bullshit, you're trying to steal my friend's seat, and then tried to push a bunch of her stuff onto the floor. So they get up and go outside and wait for the cops to show, while I just finish repairing the phone. Considering that I was nearly done anyway, it didn't take long, and just as we wrapped up, the cops came. We started to leave and I just paused and went, no, you know what, and walked over to the cops. I'm like, I'm the one this little psycho is talking about, here's the tools I was working with, this is the phone I was just repairing when they tried to shove the stuff on the ground. Do you need me to stick around? One of the cops just gives me an eye-rolling look like, no, we know this one, and goes, no, you're all good, and so we left. What's crazy is that a few years later I saw a post on a housing group in the area talking about exactly this kind of behavior, and much worse, changing locks on roomies, throwing out stuff, etc., and warning people not to rent to this person, and posted a pic of someone who looked exactly like them. Is it necessarily the same person? I dunno, but it seems more than likely. Stories number 29. AITA for not intentionally toning myself down in my daughter's graduation ceremony. I, 42F, have kept myself in pretty good shape. I don't want to boast, but it's an objective fact that I'm pretty according to most people. Whenever I go out in public with my daughter, we often get mistaken for sisters. My daughter has never had a problem with that. It was her graduation ceremony, and I went there looking my best. People asked me if I was her sister, and I told that I'm her mother. They started complimenting me on my looks and how I've kept myself fit and in shape, but my daughter later told me that she feels bad since it was supposed to be her day and people paid attention to me, and that I should have toned down my looks. Stories number 30. AITA for not letting my mom talk to my kids on their birthday after she cut contact with me, following my disclosure of sexual abuse by my father. Hi Mark, I've listened to your voice for years and never imagined I would have a story to share with you, but here I am. Your tone and your compassion have always spoken to me. It means a lot to be able to place my story the same space where I've heard so many other people's stories handled with care. This is my very first Reddit post and I hope I am doing it right. I, 44F, am Dutch but live in the UK. The rest of my family is in the Netherlands. A few weeks ago, I disclosed to my family that I was groomed, raped, and sex trafficked by my father and grandfather from childhood until I was 24. These memories came back recently in a tidal wave, somatic, emotional, overwhelming, triggered by therapy, trauma work, and ADHD medication. It took me decades to break through dissociation. I now know I survived long-term incest and intergenerational abuse. Before the full truth surfaced, I had already been posting short-form anonymous videos about neurodivergence and trauma. I'm late diagnosed autistic and ADHD. As my recovery intensified, my content became more personal, about what I survived. Family members followed my account but didn't comment, didn't check in. I felt invisible again, like the too intense one they always tiptoed around. In desperation, I sent a few videos spelling out clearly what my father and grandfather did, directly to my mother, brothers, aunts, and uncles. The family didn't deny it. They knew the men involved were abusive, had always been sexually inappropriate, violent, and controlling. Most relatives expressed support, but it was clear my truth made them uncomfortable. No one sat with me in the aftermath. No one really asked, "What do you need?" Some said they were angry these men got away with it. My grandfather is dead, and my father vanished abroad over a decade ago. They want me to go to the police, but none of them are beside me for the fallout. The person I most hoped would be present was my mother, 62F. I told her before I told the others. At first she reacted with shock and support. But that quickly changed. She said the details were too much for her. She became nostalgic, then defensive. When I expressed pain at not being protected, she snapped that she and my brothers never raped me, as if that absolved her. She's refused therapy. She refuses to reflect. She insists she did her best. She claims she's the one being attacked by me. She's never asked how I survived. She only asks why I'm making things so loud. I told her I can't keep carrying her feelings. I begged her to do some inner work, for the sake of our relationship and for my kids. She refused. She was outraged I dared question her love. She said I was exhausting her and that she needed space. I respected that. I backed off, but a few days later, she texted asking to FaceTime with my children on their birthday. I said no. Now I'm being painted as the villain. For not letting her speak to her grandchildren. For drawing a line. For being cruel, but I'm not trying to punish her. I just can't keep pretending she's safe for me, or for my children, when she won't even face what happened. Our entire relationship I was the one doing all the emotional labor, and I don't have the capacity for that anymore. I don't want revenge. I want healing. But I won't offer up my children as props in the broken dynamic I'm trying to escape. So, Aita for not letting my mom talk to my kids on their birthday after she cut contact with me, following my disclosure of sexual abuse by my father. Update, my mom's younger sister, my aunt, called me. I expected more of, I don't want to be in the middle as I am neutral, I support you, but you are incorrect about your mother, like she had been texting me earlier in the month. But I am still hanging on to the hope that I can repair and salvage the relationship with my mother, because I love her, if someone can get through to her. So I accepted the call. I got what I expected, and some attempts to control my tone and voice. She tried to play the middle. My aunt kept circling back to me needing to work on myself. That I should go to therapy first, then try to repair the relationship. I told her that's what everyone keeps saying. You should go to therapy. You should work on yourself. As if I haven't been doing that for years. In fact, it's therapy, and the safety and insight it gave me, that unlocked all of this. The buried trauma. The repressed memories. The full weight of what happened. And when I approached my family the way my therapist suggests, clear, honest, direct, they don't like it. It's too intense. Too much. Too real. Then she suddenly had a brilliant idea she needed to convince me of, couples therapy between me and my mother. She was surprised I didn't shoot it down. In fact, I had to interrupt her multiple times to tell her I completely agree. I've been asking for exactly that kind of mutual accountability. She was flabbergasted. Thought I was being sarcastic. That tells you how distorted the family's view of me is. When I calmly say, yes, to something healthy, they assume I'm faking. She also told me there's no way my mom will agree to individual therapy, because my mom has no problem being unemotional. That sentence alone tells you why this entire dynamic is what it is. I told her I never demanded that of her. I suggested therapy when she said she had no idea what I wanted her to self-reflect on. She has no idea what my mother will think of the therapy idea but said she'll try to suggest it and get back to me. Final update, Aita for not letting my mom talk to my kids on their birthday after she cut contact with me, following my disclosure of sexual abuse by my father. Aita, I want to thank everyone who responded to my post. Your judgments helped me hold on to reality when my entire family was gaslighting me. Even though I rationally knew I hadn't done anything wrong, my emotions were really struggling, especially since I've spent most of my life as one of my mom's defenders. That only started to shift a month ago. So emotionally, it felt awful to stand my ground. I needed every single one of your perspectives to fight the doubt that crept in. Final update. My aunt, 56F, and I, 44F, talked on WhatsApp call on a Thursday evening. That was the conversation where she suddenly had the idea to suggest couples counseling for me and my mom, 62F, in hopes of repairing our relationship. I immediately agreed, which shocked my aunt, even though I am literally the only one of our family who has ever willingly attended counseling for an extended amount of time. Well, except for my other aunt, my father's sister, 61F, who was also sexually abused by my grandfather when she was a child, which I only found out when I disclosed my abuse to her a few weeks ago. Anyways, I know my mom and my aunt talk all the time and physically meet for coffee every Friday morning. So I kind of knew that my aunt would suggest this to my mom the very next morning. But I heard nothing over the weekend. Bad sign already, and I assumed my mom had simply refused. I did not want to come across as too pushy or needy to my aunt, as she already had a warped opinion about me, so I waited a week to text her and ask what my mom thought about her suggestion. Her reply was, well, when I spoke to her on Friday, she was open to it. So she hasn't contacted you yet? She did wonder how that would be possible, and whether the counselor would be Dutch or English. I think, and so does she, that a Dutch one might be easier for her to express herself. But that's something you two need to agree on. I think she wants to let it sink in first before reaching out. Of course, you can also contact her. I replied that of course it should be a Dutch counselor, and that I am sure there are plenty Dutch counselors that do therapy online these days, just like here in the UK. I also made clear that I was not able to contact my mom right now as she had asked for distance from me and I was respecting her boundary. But that I told my mom I was always open for repair and never to hesitate reaching out if she was ever ready to work on our relationship. My aunt replied she would throw the idea out there again when SE saw my mom next. So, honestly, I don't believe my mom was actually open to therapy. I think she said she was to keep up appearances of being the good mom, like the real victim of her daughter's supposedly unjustified anger. Saying yes makes her look mature, but then she immediately threw up roadblocks, debating Dutch versus English therapist, as if I was the one who might suggest an English one, and then, silence. My aunt likely thought my mom would take it from there, so didn't follow up herself. When I told her I still hadn't heard anything, she seemed surprised. And then, like everyone always does, she jumped in to make excuses for my mom. That pattern kills me. Everyone around me enables and excuses her behavior, while holding me to impossible emotional standards. And yes, I am being entitled now, asking others to give me some emotional slack for a change, but maybe I am allowed to sound a little entitled right now. Just this once. Just in this one part of my life. A few weeks ago, my therapist said something that stuck with me: this entire family dynamic is exactly the kind of environment where CSA thrives. She was not wrong. While I was writing this update, my aunt texted me, "Hey OP, I spoke to mom this afternoon and asked if she's thought more about therapy. She says she wants you to first process your trauma and then maybe look at rebuilding the relationship, possibly with therapy." That doesn't mean you can't contact her, because she's totally fine with that. Face blowing a kiss. So yeah, I'm the broken one, not her again. I do all the hard work, and maybe then she'll show up. But until then, she gets to sit back and look like she's being reasonable. Well, I guess I have my answer now. Can't say I am not totally devastated. But, at least I have certainty. Edited to add, this last interaction made it clear to me that there is no other option left than NC with all of them. I am not responding to my aunt, and I am sure as heck not getting in contact with my mom. You want me to get over my trauma first? I'm no expert, but I think that'll take a long while, if ever. Oh, and you are adding tremendously to that trauma, so add a few more years. So I guess you won't be part of my and my children's lives. Stories number 31. My ex tried to ruin my life. So I let her think she did. Until I took hers apart, one piece at a time. This isn't some petty "she cheated and I keyed her car" kind of story. This was deliberate. Precise. And no, I don't feel bad about it. A few years back, I was with this girl. Let's call her Jenny. To everyone else, she looked like the dream. Smart, put together, charming when she wanted to be. But behind closed doors, it was little things at first. Subtle digs in front of my friends. Gaslighting. Flirting with a coworker and laughing when I called it out. Told me I was being paranoid. I should have ended it earlier. I didn't. That was my mistake. What finally broke me was getting fired. Out of nowhere. HR sat me down with a folder full of fake complaints, screenshots of emails I didn't write, and messages I'd never seen. They claimed I violated company policy, that there were multiple complaints. They didn't even let me speak. Just packed up my stuff and escorted me out like I was a predator. Took me a couple weeks to figure it all out. But I did. Jenny had manufactured everything. She spoofed the emails, forged the screenshots, even created burner accounts to send in complaints. She knew I was pulling away. She knew I was done with her and wanted to destroy me before I had the chance. I lost more than my job. My reputation was shattered. Mutual friends dropped me. My mom didn't know what to believe. I stopped hearing from people I'd known for years, so I vanished, moved back home. Went offline. Picked up freelance work under a new name. Let her think I was broken. Let her think she won. She had dreams of going to law school. Always bragged about becoming a human rights lawyer or some performative shit like that. I knew she'd lied on her applications. Claimed to be a first-gen student even though her dad's a surgeon. Made up fake volunteer work I knew she never did. I spent months gathering everything. Screenshots. Emails. Photos. Found her resume. Lined it all up with the truth. Built a little digital package that any admissions office would tear apart in 5 minutes. Then I sent it. Not from me, of course. It came from a concerned classmate who didn't think it was fair that someone could get ahead by cheating the system. She got blacklisted by all 3 schools she applied to. One of them even flagged her for application fraud. Her dad took a hit professionally when it got back to his network. She tried again the next year and got nothing. She still didn't know it was me. Not until I went further. I sent the same package to her job. They fired her. I wasn't done. Made a fake recruiter profile. Reached out to her with a fake dream job, senior policy advisor in Chicago. Walked her through an entire interview process. Sent her fake offer letters. Made her believe she was about to move and start her next chapter. She started selling stuff, telling people she was relocating. I kept it going for almost 3 months, and then I cut contact. The last thing she got was a short message from that fake recruiter email. Remember what you did to him? Now you know what it feels like. She's back living with her parents now. Tells people she had a mental breakdown. Nobody wants to say it to her face, but people talk. Me. I moved on, built a better business. Never posted a word about it. Some people play games thinking they'll never lose. She just picked the wrong opponent. Stories number 32. To fool by changing my baby. So my extended family is staying together for the 4th of July, and because of reasons the baby changing station is in my parents' bedroom. For the most part this works out fine. However, last night I needed to change my baby after my dad had already gone to bed. No big deal, he's a pretty hard sleeper and there was enough light from the window. I've done it before, quietly in, change diaper, quietly out. But last night when I was mid-change my baby boy looked at me with the sweetest smile I've ever seen. My heart instantly melted and I unconsciously said, "Why hello, you," in that sweet mama voice reserved for adorable baby moments. I did not expect my dad to respond, "Not tonight, hon, I'm too tired," and roll over before starting to snore again. EW. So apparently to my sleeping father I sound like my mom when she's in the mood. And what a line. Now I can't talk to my baby without imagining my mom coming on to my dad. I'm practically grumbling at my son and he's doing all the cute things he can to get me to say something sweetly. But my dad is here and I just can't. TLDR, I said something cute to my baby and learned what my mom's sexy voice sounds like. Stories number 33. Aita for letting my 5-year-old go hungry while I ate. Myself, boyfriend and my kid stopped at Cracker Barrel for breakfast this morning. There's a store in the front and restaurant in the back for those who have never been. Kid begged for a $65 toy and we said, no. It was overpriced and he has a very similar toy at home that he ignores. He decided to first try a tantrum complete with stomping and crying. We went outside and had a come to Jesus meeting and he hushed. He then decided to go on a hunger strike to get me to buy the toy. He informed me he wasn't eating till I bought it. I said fine, boyfriend, and I ate, and he sat quietly with a Sprite and a kid's menu in case he changed his mind. A woman noticed us eating and him not eating and offered to buy him whatever he wanted to eat, since we were selfish monsters who were eating in front of him. He requested the toy, she priced it and said no. She then tells me I need to buy it. My kid is a foster child and it's obvious as we're different races. She argued I get paid to care for him and need to do whatever it takes to make sure he's happy. I think that's ridiculous and unrealistic. He was offered food multiple times and refused. We ended up getting McDonald's on our way to the movies for the record, but AITA for going ahead and eating. Stories number 34. AITA for not inviting my friend to hang out, then not showing up when she invited herself, and maybe letting her think she was invited. I, 26M, am part of a WhatsApp group with 5 close friends. 2 of them are girls. Let's call them Rose and Nina. We all hang out in different combos sometimes. So, a few nights ago I was working a hotel shift, my hours are always chaotic, and during a slow moment I texted the group chat. I asked Rose if she would like to go photography hunting later that night around 9, if I'm already off work by then. This is something Rose and I do together pretty often. Just drive around the city at night taking photos. Rose said sure and told me to just drop her a message when I got off. All good so far. But then Nina asked if she could come too. Here's the part I'm conflicted about. I didn't respond. Because honestly, I didn't really want her to come. But if I told her no she would just stir up drama, accusing us of excluding her, etc. Let me be clear, I don't dislike Nina. She's my friend. But she tends to get really rigid about plans and timing. She gets anxious or upset if things don't go exactly as expected. And this was just supposed to be a chill, last-minute outing. If I even got off work on time, Rose replied to Nina and said, sure, if you'd like. Probably just to be polite. So basically the plane was still up in the air. At around 8:30 p.m., I realized work wasn't slowing down. So I texted the group telling Rose I was sorry and something came up and looked like I wouldn't be getting off work anytime soon. Rose responded that it was totally fine and she understood. Nina didn't reply. The next morning, she went off in the group chat, saying that she had gone to the place we usually meet, waited alone, and felt completely disrespected. She accused us of not valuing her time and being passive-aggressive by inviting her and then not showing up. I never invited her. I didn't respond. I wasn't even sure I'd be free. I messaged to say I couldn't make it. The thing is Nina can be really difficult at times. Like whenever any of us make plans without her, she would get upset. Or when we text one another privately, she says she feels excluded. But whenever we make plans without her on the group chat, she almost always will invite herself. This isn't the first time something like this has happened. Nina has a tendency to insert herself into casual plans and then get really upset when things change. I thought I was doing the mature thing by staying silent instead of outright saying, no, I'd rather you didn't come. Some mutual friends are saying I should have been clearer and that, not inviting someone isn't the same as saying they shouldn't come. Others say Nina was out of line for assuming she was invited in the first place. So, AITA for not inviting Nina, not clarifying anything, and then not showing up when she showed up anyway. Stories number 35. AITJ for telling my roommate she needs to move out after I found out she's having an affair with our married neighbor. I, 19F, live with my roommate, also 19F, in a rental near our college. Last week, I saw her sneaking back into the house at 3 a.m. from our neighbor's place. I didn't think much of it until I realized that neighbor, early 30s, is married, and his wife was out of town that night. The next morning, I confronted my roommate. She denied it at first, but eventually admitted she's been hooking up with him for months. I was shocked. She knows his wife. They've even had dinner at our place and my roommates babysat their kid before. I told her flat out that she either comes clean to the wife or moves out. She said I was overreacting and trying to control her life. Some mutual friends and even my own boyfriend say I was harsh, but I'm disgusted. I don't want to be part of this, especially when someone innocent is being lied to. AITJ for giving her an ultimatum. Stories number 36. The person in need of shaming is me. This sub popped up recently and it reminded me of an embarrassing memory that I thought I would share with you all. I was 13 and a huge nerd, but somehow managed to snag the cutest boy at band camp. Yes, seriously. Once camp was over and we went back home, he asked me to be his date to his sister's wedding. Obviously I said yes, we were in love, but I had never been to a wedding. Didn't know anything about weddings. All I knew was I should dress fancy, so I wore the only dress I had, a white, lace, floor-length strapless gown I had worn to my grade 8 graduation. Heels I had no business wearing that I believe to be solely responsible for the bunion currently on my right foot. A full face of makeup and about 46 plastic butterfly clips in my hair. To make matters worse, besides quite literally showing up dressed as a bride to someone else's wedding, it was just not that kind of wedding. Morning church ceremony, everyone very simply dressed, sandwiches in the church hall afterwards. I was, simply put, a spectacle. Gary's sister, if you're reading this, I am so sorry. I know you remember because how could you forget? Ugh. Edit, I'm going to add this for everyone rightfully asking why the hell didn't my parents stop me. I had really shitty parents lol. Stories number 37. Why can't we exist unbothered? We were staying at our family cabin, and my husband went to bed early. I was sitting outside, having some drinks and stoking the campfire. I love watching the embers crackle and dance. The neighbor, who I have known for years, came by and told me to come over to his fire. Otherwise him and his friend were coming to mine. So I went. Everything was fine while his friend was there, but he had a long walk and headed home. The neighbor told me to stay, and stoke the fire. I have known this guy for years. I didn't think anything of it. His wife and adult daughters were sleeping in rooms right next to where the campfire was. But this man. He wouldn't stop talking about the weight I lost, and me wearing bikinis. Did my husband and I have an open relationship? Asking me to come on his boat for Topless Tuesday was the last straw. I said goodnight and left. Why can't we just exist, without having to deal with things like this? I told my husband what happened, but what can I do? Other than act like everything is normal, for everyone else's sake. How can I ever wear a bikini there again without feeling creeped out? I'm sad about it. ETA, I did see someone comment about PTSD, so I thought I would confirm this. It's hard to talk about, but I've had men treat me like this since I was 12 years old. You know the old song and dance, you'd better not tell anyone, it's your fault. And now even as an adult, it's like the wires get crossed in my brain. I can't think rationally when things like this happen. I couldn't escape from a bad situation the way a normal person would. My husband is going to keep me safe. We actually share a backyard with this prick, so we will be building a fence now. Remember ladies, it's not your fault. It wasn't your fault, not for 1 second. And next time some asshole acts like this, it's not your fault either. Love ya. Stories number 38. Not allowing your daughter to date but allowing your son to date is strange. This is so stupid and I see it in almost each family. Why do boys get to have girlfriends while girls get to have no sort of partner and be seen to grow old without one or any potential love interest? I get the worry and concern, but if they were so afraid and worried about this, why not educate your daughter on the right men to look for and the right men to avoid and create a safe space for that? People literally let other people's children stop their children from being happy and experiencing life. Like okay, your friend's daughter had a kid at 17, you think yours will? Never made sense. Why not let your child experience that breakup and experience what the dating world is about? Especially while they are still in high school, they are in person. The dating life gets harder and harder the more life goes on. Stories number 39. My coworker eats paper towels and now HR wants me to stop watching. So this is probably the weirdest thing I've ever witnessed at work. One of my coworkers, let's call him Dan, has this habit of tearing off a piece of paper towel from the break room and eating it. Like fully chewing and swallowing. At first I thought maybe he was just nervous or absent-mindedly chewing it and spitting it out, but nope. Dude munches it like it's a granola bar. It's always after lunch too, which somehow makes it creepier. The thing is, I guess I've been too obvious about watching him do this because last week HR called me in and told me it's not appropriate to stare at colleagues or comment on their personal habits. Now I feel like I'm the villain here just for being confused about Dan's daily fiber intake. Am I actually in the wrong? Should I just pretend it's normal that he's eating half a roll of Bounty every week? Anyone else ever had to pretend a coworker's bizarre habit was completely normal? Stories number 40. Aita for telling my MIL to back off and let me be the parent. Me and my wife have a 7-month-old baby and lately my MIL's been acting like she's the one raising her. She shows up without asking, always has something to say about how we're doing things and doesn't really listen when we set boundaries. The other day she watched the baby while I ran a few errands. I got home and caught her feeding our kid honey biscuits. I told her babies can't have honey, it's a real risk, and she brushed it off like I was overreacting. Said she gave her kids honey all the time and they turned out fine. Later I told my wife that I'm done tiptoeing. I want real boundaries, no more surprise visits, no more feeding stuff without checking, no more acting like she knows better. My wife gets it but she feels guilty and doesn't want to hurt her mom's feelings. Now the family's saying I'm being too harsh and I should be grateful MIL even wants to help. But I'm tired of feeling like a guest in my own home and like I have to fight for basic respect as a parent. Aita for standing my ground and telling her to back off. Stories number 41. Am I the jerk for telling my partner I'm not going to his brother's wedding, and that he shouldn't either? My partner and I have been living for a year in a house owned by his brother. For months, there was a lot of back and forth about the living arrangement. At first, his brother planned to move into the basement, which was fine, we'd share the kitchen, and my partner and I were okay with that. Then he changed his mind and said he wanted us to leave. After that, he said he would renovate the basement instead, and that's what we were expecting. About a month ago, he sent us an amended lease. Me, my partner, and their mother all signed it, but hadn't returned it yet. Then barely a week later, he told us he didn't want to go through with the renovations after all and wouldn't renew the lease. Instead, he said he'd only let us stay month to month. When I calmly pushed back on how that was handled, he argued with me about my tenant rights, even though he had put in writing that I had to comply with lease terms, making me a tenant under our local laws. He insisted he could kick me out however he wanted and told my partner that if I spoke to any other landlord the way I spoke to him, they'd kick me out, too. That felt like an outright threat to my living situation. He then didn't include me in any conversations about the lease termination or the month-month agreement, till I threatened to report him. He also tried to set things up so our 90-day notice period would start before the month-to-month agreement even existed, essentially trying to con us into leaving sooner than the rules allowed while he collected our money. On top of that, he was making this demand not only of us but of his own mother and his brother's partner of 5 years, me, basically threatening all of us with losing our housing. He told us we owed him an apology and that I was out of line for even commenting on the situation. He also threw in a comment about how we should be able to afford living on our own, which felt incredibly condescending since he has no idea what our finances are. After all of this, I told my partner that I'm giving the invitation back to his brother because I no longer want it and that I'm not going to the wedding. I also told him I don't think he should go either, considering how we were treated. He seems really unsure about it, and his mom is acting like we should both still go to keep the peace. So, am I the jerk for saying I'm not going and for telling him I don't think he should either? Update, again just for context, we did find a place and his mother did agree to rent with us. We are leaving mid-July, so by the time his wedding comes, we will not be here. Stories number 42. Aita for cancelling my plans because I wasn't made aware that other people aside from family whom I don't know were going to be there until last minute. I, F25, had plans to visit my hometown this weekend to go to my uncle's, M60s, house to have a little gathering and swim in the pool, with my dad, M60s. We three have a close relationship, so I was looking forward to spending a relaxing weekend at a family member's place. I took a train in, got my stuff ready to drive together with my dad to uncle's house. Right before we leave the parking lot he pulls over for a second and tells me that my uncle is having guests over from abroad, a Russian friend and her kid, so asks me whether I'm okay with it. I have social anxiety so of course I feel blindsided. My dad knows I will definitely have a reaction therefore saves it till last minute to tell me. I am really not in the mood to socialize, as it means the opposite of relaxing to me. I did not agree to gather with a bunch of people I don't know for the weekend. Had he shared this information beforehand, even this morning, I would have probably handled it differently. He also has a history of doing this sort of thing, taking me places I thought we would be alone or meeting someone, only to realize there are some extra people I wasn't aware going to be there. Because he doesn't want me to have the chance to say no or excuse myself. Just subjects me to it and it makes me uncomfortable. I am extremely pissed. I argued my point and said I wasn't going as I don't feel like it anymore. I am angry at him and because this is not the first time he's done this was going to spoil my mood among everyone else. I returned home and now really fucking sad I don't get to have a relaxing pool day, which was the only reason I visited town. Stories number 43. AIO for being suspicious that my 20F boyfriend, 21M, is hiding his long-distance female friend. My boyfriend and I have been dating for a little over a year and a half, and we have been very happy together. I'm absolutely head over heels in love with everything about him. We also play a lot of video games together and spend a lot of time on the phone when we aren't together in person. This will be relevant later. Since we've been together for a while, I've met all the important people in his life, except one. I'll call her Sarah, fake name, 21F. The first time I heard about her was closer to the beginning of our relationship. She was an old friend of my boyfriend's who moved away, then got back in touch with him. He was very excited to talk to her again. At first I was happy to see them reconnect, and after a while I was expecting to meet her, as I have met all of his other friends, but that invitation never came. They stopped talking, and recently she's come back in a big way. My boyfriend is constantly talking with her, spending 6+ hours every other day chatting with her alone. He's showing her all the things he was excited to show me, playing 2-player/co-op games with her, etc. I'll admit, I've become a little insecure about it. I've asked again to meet her, and he said that he would see if it was possible, but nothing has happened yet. He doesn't tell me ahead of time when he's OTP with her, and there have been many times where he will let up to 3 of my calls go unanswered, and when he finally picks up he explains that he's busy doing things with her. He says that he doesn't like telling me that he's with her BC. I will get upset about it, but I keep explaining that I just want to talk to her so I know what's going on. Yesterday was the 4th of July, and I found out that he ditched his plans with his family to play a game with her. The game was one where big groups perform better overall, but he didn't even ask me if I wanted to download it and play as well, nor did he ask any of his other gaming buddies. Every time I want to play with him, he either will only play for a fraction of the time before saying he's going to sleep, or he says that he's busy. I've also noticed that he's been more distant over the past few weeks, which worries me even more. Due to crazy work-life schedules, we don't get to see each other in person very often anymore, which is a reason why I valued our gaming time so much. I feel like I'm being replaced by the stereotypical girl best friend. I don't know if I'm looking too much into this. It could be my anxieties and insecurities acting up. It's just that he knows all of my friends and I thought I knew all of his. Every time I ask about meeting Sarah he deflects. Someone please help me. How am I supposed to address this situation? I need to know if I'm overreacting or if things are suspicious. I'm sorry for rambling, I'm very sleep deprived and anxious. Update, I called him, he was playing a game with her for a few hours ATP. I asked if he wanted to play a game with me instead, and he said that he would as soon as their last round ended. I said okay and waited. It was already late but I was trying to remain optimistic. After a while I called, but he didn't pick up. Once again, multiple calls went to voicemail. I basically gave up. After almost 2 hours had passed, he finally texted me. The conversation went like this. BF, we haven't lost yet OP, it's been well over an hour. If you didn't want to play with me you could have just said so BF, we haven't lost yet. It's a roguelike OP, why did you not answer me all the times I called you? BF, BC, I've been playing the game and I have to communicate. At this point I called him again, and I tried to keep my composure but I was feeling very emotional and couldn't stop myself from crying over this situation. I cried about just wanting to spend time with him, but more than that I didn't understand why he was hiding this friend from me. He said that he wasn't hiding her, but I said that his actions proved that he was. I was making a lot of the same points that I made in my original post and just wanting to put my anxieties to rest. Keep in mind during this conversation he was still playing with her, and I could hear the keys typing more than I heard him respond to me. He was very quiet for the majority of me talking, though at some points he actually yelled at me, which hurt my feelings and made me feel worse about the whole situation. He was talking about how guys and girls can be just friends, and I agree with that. I myself have a lot of male friends, but the difference between that and what's happening here is that he's met all of my friends and I never hang out with them alone. While talking, I asked again why he hadn't introduced the two of us. He said that he didn't want to put her in a situation where she's forced to talk to me. I asked him what he meant by that and he didn't give me a straight answer. When I referenced it again later, he said that he never said it. This comment cut me deeply. Does he think his friends are forced to talk to me? The call lasted for around 30 minutes. A few minutes before it ended, I asked if they were still playing. He said no, that they had just gotten off before the round ended because she wanted to go to sleep. I literally felt my heart break a little. I said something along the lines of, so she can get off in the middle of the round, but when I ask you to do it I have to wait on the sidelines, to which he replied, I'm not going to force her to stay if she's tired. I feel that finishing the game wasn't the goal. He just wanted to spend more time with her. After a bit more crying, he sent her a text saying that I wanted to meet her. I feel nothing about it. I told him that it didn't feel genuine, and I really wished that he would have listened to me before I had to start crying. This is all so out of character for him. I'm not used to feeling this way. I just feel this overwhelming sense of awfulness. I'm terrified that he's having an emotional affair. I'll update in the future if something happens. In the meantime I would still like more advice on if my concerns are valid, if I'm overreacting, but at this point I really don't think I am. Edit, I did not expect this to get as much attention as it's getting. Thank you everyone who took time to leave a comment about what I should do. I also want to say that this is very out of character for him. Before she came back, he was very sweet and attentive and everything good. He's been everything I could ever ask for. I still love him very much, and this is really tearing me apart. Again, I'll figure out if she wants to talk to me or not. Update 2, I spoke to my BF this morning. He said that Sarah would like to meet me and wants to invite me to play games. I said that I didn't care, and that his words and actions last night hurt me very deeply. He asked what specifically he said, and I mentioned that the worst thing was him saying that he didn't want her to be forced to talk to me. I said that was the most hurtful thing he has ever said to me in the entirety of our relationship. For some background context, I have ADHD, diagnosed when I was 6, and I also have a tendency to get extremely anxious in both mild and stressful situations. I could probably get diagnosed with GAD, but I haven't gone in yet. I also experienced the reality of being replaced, because I had a former best friend who moved and found someone who was, like me but cooler. This has resulted in me being incredibly insecure about people liking me, especially his friends. He knows this. I told him that it felt like he thought of what to say to directly hit my deepest insecurity and deliberately hurt my feelings. I also brought up the fact that he yelled at me, and it hurt very greatly. He said that he didn't mean to deliberately hurt me, and that what I thought wasn't the case at all. He seemed apologetic. Though, he also said that he yelled BC he was overwhelmed by playing the game and talking to me, but didn't give an answer as to why he didn't get off the game to help me. I sent him a longer list of my feelings, but he has yet to reply. More importantly, we have a mutual friend who I work with. I'll call her Nina, 21F. I explained the whole situation to her and she looked horrified. She told me that she couldn't understand why he would be acting like this, but if her BF did that she would be livid. She also said that she remembered my BF talking to her and her partner about this girl before. I asked her to explain. She told me that a while ago he talked about how there was one day I was upset because the two of us were supposed to play a game together, but he ended up playing with Sarah instead. Both Nina and her partner told him that what he did was messed up and I had every right to be upset. They also said that he shouldn't be playing with her for as long as he's been. Nina was also adamant that she believed my BF would never cheat, it's not in his character. She's known him for longer than I have, but this is very weird and out of character. I know you guys in the comments hate this term, I'm sorry. I'm typing this in the bathroom at work. We'll update again later. Thank you all again for your kind, and also harsh, words. Stories number 44. My boyfriend told his friends I was his lesbian phase, and now wants me to pretend it never happened. Listener write in. I, 24F, dated C, 26M, for almost 2 years. He was my first serious boyfriend after coming out as bi, and I thought he respected that about me. He even joked about how hot it was sometimes, which, okay, red flag in hindsight. A few weeks ago, his group of friends hosted a poker night. I was supposed to go but had a terrible migraine and stayed home. He left his iPad on the couch, and a Discord notification popped up. I didn't go snooping, I just saw my name in preview and opened it. I found entire chats of him talking about me like I was some experimental phase. She was just my lesbian detour. We all have one, right? Honestly surprised she stayed this long. Bi girls always go back to girls. Low-key thought she tried to turn me into a gay best friend. It got worse. Screenshots of our texts. Private photos. Jokes about how I trick straight guys into dating women in disguise. I was sick. I confronted him, and he had the audacity to say, "It's just guy banter." I didn't mean any of it. I dumped him instantly. He tried crying. Then rage. Then begged me to keep it between us, because his friends don't respect him when he's soft. So now I'm a casualty of his ego. He's still texting me like nothing happened. You overreacted. No one's perfect. You're the only person who ever got me. No, I just saw all of you and I'm never forgetting it. Stories number 45. The girl next door gives off the weirdest vibe ever and I am low-key scared of her. Okay, so let me tell you about the girl who lives next door. She moved in about 8 to 9 months ago, and I thought, cool, a normal adult doing normal adult things. She's probably 23 or 24, has a job or something, no clue what, could be tech, could be black magic TBH, and I swear on God, she is so weird I don't even know where to start. Let's begin with the smell. Every single day. There's this sharp, sour dry fish stench coming from her room, like dry fish but worse. It clings to your lungs like trauma. Naturally, I asked, "Hey, do you cook fish a lot?" She goes, "I don't eat fish." In what world? Ma'am, then what the hell is dying in there daily? Her lights? Never on. Not even a flicker. I've seen her flat thrice. And every time I ring the doorbell, she opens the door immediately like she was standing right there. Another time it creaked open. I peeked, zero boundaries, I know, and it was pitch black. Even during Diwali, when the whole building was glowing, her place was just void. Now the night noises. Every single night, there's this loud sizzling sound like someone frying something alive. Pat 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 pat. 4 hours. Full concert. Even our fan stopped spinning out of respect. And the girl herself. She doesn't walk, she glides. When she does move, it's slow and jerky, like she's learning how to be human. She speaks so slowly you could make tea mid-sentence. No emotion. No blink. No soul. And multiple times I've seen her come home soaking wet, no rain, middle of the day. Me and my dad complained to the landlord about the smell and noise, but nothing's helped. At this point, I've accepted it, she's not just weird. She's a vibe, a bad one. Pray for me, y'all. Stories number 46. To fool by asking a coworker if the vet wanted to put her sister down. So, today my coworker came up to me during a slow time and started telling me that she found out today that Amy has kidney disease. Lately she has been telling me about her cat, who is really old and having health trouble lately. I couldn't remember the name, but I knew it was a normal human name, so I figured she must be talking about the cat. She was upset, of course, and I offered her my condolences. I asked, does the vet think it can be treated or is it too severe for a cat her age? They don't want to put her down, do they? My coworker looked really confused, then surprised, then she corrected me. Amy is her sister. The cat is Fiona. I was embarrassed, and a little frustrated to be honest, couldn't she have just said, my sister, Amy, at the mix-up and apologized profusely. The good news is that the condition her sister has is pretty mild and was caught early. Doctors are hopeful that they can treat it and prevent the condition from worsening. But, yeah, it was embarrassing. TLDR, I confused a human's name with a cat's name and asked if the human was going to have to be euthanized by a veterinarian. Stories number 47. Well, I never went to a movie that I was looking forward to watching on the big screen. Saw a matinee showing so it wouldn't be busy. First one into the theater and picked my middle seat. Within a few minutes 2 older women sat directly behind me. They were acting strange and making comments. Just before the movie started, one tapped me on the shoulder and asked if I could move because I was blocking her view. The entire theater was empty except for us. I looked at her and said, no. I came early to sit right here so I can enjoy the movie. Her response was shocked dismay and a, well, I never. I calmly told her that I doubted this was the first time she was rude. She exclaimed that I was the rude one because I'm tall and blocking her view. Told her there were tons of empty seats, but they chose to sit behind the 6 feet 1 inch guy. They moaned for a bit and finally moved. What the heck? Stories number 48. Can you clear this off for us? No, now put my food down. Remembered this one time last year. I was serving, no host that afternoon. It was dead at the moment, so I ordered food and sat at the booth next to the host stand to eat. The table also had the silverware basket for rolling them once I finished eating. We don't have a break room, it's a small place, so we eat at this specific booth or at the very back booth. It was also way too hot to eat outside that day. Anyways, this older couple walks in and we make eye contact. They must have been there a minute and I hadn't noticed right away, but they were staring at me while I was shoving food in my face, which is how they chose to get my attention instead of saying something. I got up and wiped my hands and face, asked them what I could do for them. They said they'd like a table for 2. Yeah, of course. I tell them I'll sit them, I go and grab the menus and setups from behind the host stand. They're already walking to sit themselves instead of waiting for me, which is the usual. They stop in front of the front booth. I think that maybe they actually decided to wait for me. Then the wife picks up my plate and is staring at me. She asks, but it's less a question and more a demand, can you clean up this table? We want to sit here. Again, they watched me sitting there eating, so they knew that was my food. The table also still had the silverware basket and napkins plus napkin bands on it. The dining room is also completely empty, they could have literally any other table. I just looked at her for a long minute, hoping she was just joking, but she was serious. I said, no. I will not. I'm sitting there, that's my food. Now, please put my food down. Do not touch it. Needless to say, she got pissy about it and nearly slammed the plate back on the table. All huffy, she sat at the next booth over and stared at me angrily the rest of the time they were there and while I served them. Stories number 49. My sister is 18 years and has an intellectual disability, decided to leave home to live with an 40-years-old man. This man has been in contact with my sister when she was a minor and I did whatever I could to be able to stop this communication with them. My mom didn't do much because we did not know how far this would go. After a few months after her 18th birthday we had found out that instead of hanging with her friend she has been secretly going out with this man. Once she realized we had known, she was afraid to come back home, leaving her belongings behind. That we have tried to go to our local precinct, which the first cop seems to not care, and another cop step in whom we told our situation and told us that they can't do nothing. I called to make a wellness check on her but police could not get inside after knocking since the app has no doorbell. My sister is unable to get a high school diploma as she is an IEP student. My mom is neglectful, was not much involved with getting help for my sister since she has not gone to therapy after COVID. The man is also undocumented and has a history of doing this with younger and other girls. My mom does not care anymore. She says that she must do her own life and calls her once a while but doesn't not call me because she knows I disapprove of that man. Stories number 50. Revenge of the grass. I got home the other day to a warning from my local police department for having high grass. It stated that I must cut the grass within 5 days or potentially face a fine. The grass they're referring to is my 3 feet by 15 feet, pollinator patches that I intentionally let grow and I clearly maintain well within my property lines. Some backstory. My neighbor, let's call him Dick, is one of those grumpy old men that is obsessed with his lawn. I'm talking mows it in the winter, mows it twice a week in the summer. It's the man's entire personality. I've lived across the street from him for years. Every year he makes shitty comments and he's even taken it upon himself to mow my grass for me if I go longer than a week. So Dick filed a complaint with the police department. I know this because I called the ordinance enforcement officer in charge to ask about a way to appeal this, and when I told him about the grass in question he told me not to worry about it. He admitted my neighbor files a complaint every month about it. He's coming out next week to take photos and see the property for himself. But I'm not too worried about it. He seemed just as annoyed as I did. Well, last night I did something I'm very proud of. It consisted of concentrated weed killer, a long-range water gun and a moving vehicle. Best of luck to you and your lawn, Dick. Stories number 51. Men who've grown emotionally. What helped you step up and finally see your partner? My husband, 45M, and I, 44F, have been together 25 years. We married young, oldest siblings from broken homes, looking for stability. And while I've grown emotionally, he's stayed the same. I work full-time and always have. I also do all the cooking, cleaning, laundry, grocery shopping, kids' appointments, taxes, school stuff, everything. He does yard work. That's about it. I've told him I'm burnt out. He wanted me to meal prep lunches, but gave no input. I tried factor meals for a break. He refused to eat them and said, I want your cooking. After I told him I was struggling, I sat him down 2 months ago and said I can't live like this for another year, let alone another 25. He tries to control how I act in public, tells me be quiet if I'm being playful or talkative, then gaslights me when I call it out. If I make plans with friends, rare, he asks when I'll be home before I even leave. I gave him $20,000 toward a dually and he told me I couldn't drive it until I practiced with him in a parking lot. I'm 44, not 16. Repairs around the house go untouched for years, but he'll help others immediately. When I asked if he'd treat a future girlfriend the way he treats me, he instantly said, no, followed by the classic, I don't know how to communicate. I am tired. Tired of explaining what I need. Tired of being brushed off. Tired of being everything for everyone, while no one shows up for me. And before anyone asks, he's not neglected sexually. He gets sex and blow jobs almost daily. This isn't about that. He's not a bad man. He's a great father, but he's a shitty partner. And I just want to be someone's priority. Stories number 52. Company tried to force me to resign, but I refused and told them they would have to terminate me. They terminated me on July 2nd, but claimed I resigned on June 30th. My work tried to force me to resign. I refused several times by email and Teams Messenger that I will not resign. I did acknowledge that Michigan is an at-will state and I understand they can terminate me without cause and that if they choose to go that route they are welcome to do so. On the morning of July 2nd, I received the automated email showing that I had been marked voluntarily terminated, resignation, and I had lost access to all company systems. I still have access to Workday for pay stub and tax information. When I logged into Workday to try to get a handle on the situation, I noticed that they backdated my last day to June 30th. This is significant because per company policy I would retain my health insurance and a few other benefits through the end of the month from when my last day occurred. I filed for unemployment, but I am concerned that them stating that I resigned and that my last day is different than the day that I claimed could cause issues. I received a request from UIA for fact-finding, but the form only gives options for things like fired for misconduct, fired for unlawful behavior, and thin s of that nature. I feel like I was let go for retaliation because I refused to lie to customers and misrepresent what was included in our service packages, which is a tactic that the entire rest of the department was pivoting to. I'm fine being gone from that company, but the changing of the final day and the marking me as resigned are inaccurate and have already affected my insurance and could affect my unemployment. I'm not sure what to do. Stories number 53. To fool by leaving out my Kong while I was at work. I just got home and I genuinely don't know how to process what just happened. Currently debating if I should move to the mountain by myself. So here's what just happened. My wife's out of town for the week and since I've been working crazy hours, an overnight shift straight into a morning one. I asked my mom to stop by the house, let the dog out, feed him, and keep him company until I could get myself home. Now here's where it gets mortifying. When my wife is away for extended periods, I have a personal toy. It's blue, hourglass shaped and let's say ergonomically designed. My wife is fully aware and even jokingly nicknamed it my Kong. Anyway, before I went to bed after my last shift, I washed it and left it on the dish rack in the kitchen. Usually I put it away immediately, but I guess I was overworked and I passed out without thinking twice. So fast forward to today. I come home after 16 hours of non-stop work. I'm exhausted, dead on my feet, and just ready to fall into bed. I walk in and there's my mom on the couch, happily playing with the dog, and in his mouth, the Kong, covered in peanut butter. I freeze. Just completely short circuit. She gets up to greet me and goes, "He just loves his Kong." Immediately she can tell something up and asked, "Is everything okay, sweetie?" I mumbled something like, "Yeah, just a long day," and stumbled off before I could burst into flames on the spot. She didn't stay long, thank God, just left me a plate of food and went home. As soon as the door closed, I sprinted around the house trying to catch my dog, finally wrestled the Kong from him and chucked it in the trash like it was radioactive. Now I'm lying in bed, sleep deprived and emotionally destroyed, trying to decide if I'll ever be able to look my mother in the eye again. Or if I should tell my wife. Or if I should just disappear. TLDR, left my sex toy on the drying rack. Mom mistook it for a dog toy, filled it with peanut butter, and gave it to my dog. Stories number 54. I used store-bought cupcakes in a bake sale competition and won first place. This happened during a high school charity event years ago. Each student was supposed to bake something homemade for a judged bake sale. I totally forgot about it until the night before and panicked. I ran to the grocery store, bought a dozen fancy-looking cupcakes from the bakery section, and slightly messed them up on purpose, like smudged the frosting, added a few sprinkles, put them in my own container, so they'd look homemade. The next day, I submitted them and didn't think much of it, until they won the blue ribbon for Best Presentation and Taste. They were sold out in 10 minutes. I still feel kinda guilty about it, especially because people were genuinely impressed and asked me for the recipe. I made one up on the spot. I don't even like baking. Stories number 55. Quietly editing bad behavior with kindness. Next to where I live there's a open space bush, surrounded on all sides by houses. People regularly dump rubbish there and it's infuriating to me. Context: I'm Australian. In Australia if you don't want something you leave it on the curb in front of your house and anyone can take it. So this house near the paddock had some chairs on the curb, which no one took. After a couple of weeks they were dumped in the paddock. I tried to give the benefit of the doubt, maybe they couldn't take them to the tip. Maybe they were moving and in a desperate rush. A couple weeks later they put another chair and some office stuff on the curb. And sure enough, when no one took them, they dumped them in the paddock. This became a regular occurrence. Garden stuff, furniture, electronics. They were clearly having a big clear out and using the paddock as their personal dumpster. Most annoyingly, 90% of the stuff they dumped would easily fit in their curbside bin. All of it would fit in their car. After fuming and thinking, I decided I would just considerately return the items. I walk through this paddock every day, so every time they dumped something, I'd pick it up and put it back on their curb. This went on for weeks. They'd dump it, I'd return it. They'd dump it again, I'd pick it all up and kindly return their lost items. Finally the dumping stopped, the items I so generously returned to them were jammed into their bins and it's been months since they've dumped something in the paddock. I don't know if this is pretty revenge or not, but I cannot tell you the joy it brings me to think of them walking out that first morning, and seeing the items they'd secretly dumped through the night all neatly returned, and their frustration as their junk kept returning to them. Stories number 56. AIO by telling my friend's husband he needs to unretire. She's constantly asking for food and AC. My friend's been asking for food from me a lot lately and to stay at my house because they can't afford to run the AC. He's retired for a year now and my friend is the only one who works. Even with her working 6 days a week she said they still can't afford much of anything. She works a retail job and she doesn't make much. Can't afford to go out. Can't afford to run the AC, barely can afford groceries. She's been really down and out about it. She has told me that her husband will get mad at her if she wants to fill the fridge up because they can't afford to fill a fridge. She said they can only afford a few groceries but not enough to keep them full, so she's hungry a lot. She is over at my house a lot asking if I can cook for her and she spends the night sometimes because she says she gets too hot and feels sick being in a hot house. She says they need to keep the house at 77 per his request. I told her why is she letting him call all the shots and she's the only one working. I told her it's no fair she works 6 days a week while he only does chores for 2 hours then lounges around for the day watching TV. She told me her husband said he refuses to go back to work because he worked hard for too many years and wants to relax now. She told me he said he was always stressed at work and he doesn't mind making less money if it means he's at peace. I was like, y'all can barely afford food or anything and he's at peace. My friend is stressed out but her husband seems unfazed and that's wild to me. My friend is trying to find a second job but she's already so exhausted with one job. I told her make him get a job something anything. Working two jobs while her husband watches TV is so selfish and unfair. She said her husband was making 100K before he retired. He needs to unretire in my opinion. Stories number 57. Get that for me. Was at Costco the other day, minding my business in the refrigerated section, checking out one of those pre-made meal things. Out of nowhere, I hear a, get that for me. I look to my left, there's a woman in one of those hover-round scooters. No cast, no crutches, so I'll let you guys conclude why she wasn't able to walk on her own two legs. I say, are you talking to me? She points at something on the shelf and without flinching repeats, get that for me. I just stared at her. Not a please, not an excuse me, not even a hint of a question. Just a straight-up command like I was her personal attendant. After a moment of silence where she clearly couldn't tell what was wrong, I replied with a simple, no. If she had started the interaction with some basic decency, excuse me, would you mind grabbing that for me? I 100% would have, but barking orders at strangers. Nah. Stories number 58. Aita, 4th of July, boyfriend has work and wants me to spend the day alone waiting until he is out to drive to the shore. I, F26, had plans to go down to the shore for the 4th of July with my family. It was planned for 3 weeks and my sister and her boyfriend were coming in from Boston. My partner, M27, recently started a new job and for orientation there was no set schedule. He thought he would have to work on the 4th from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. or not at all. A week ago I let him know if he is off of work I would really like him to join. I had off Friday, 4th of July, so planned on driving down Thursday night to spend my day off at the beach. My boyfriend found out at 3 p.m. on Thursday that he would have to work until 4 p.m. Friday, 4th of July. I let him know I feel horrible about him having to work but I would still be leaving Thursday as originally planned. He is upset and wanted me to stay home on Friday and wait for him to get out of work so that we can drive down together. I didn't want to spend my holiday waiting around at home and then driving 4 to 5 hours after to the beach and essentially miss the 4th of July. He was still invited if he wanted to drive down. Aita. Stories number 59. My BF just told me he doesn't wash with soap and what to do. I, 20F, started dating my boyfriend, 22M, a little less than a month ago. Yesterday I mentioned that while getting clean is obviously the priority, showering is more ritualistic for me and I like how the hot water feels. It's just relaxing not the point. Anyways he responds by saying that he agrees, and that he doesn't usually wash his body with soap when he gets into the shower and kind of just lets it run over him. But he does make a point to wash his hair. I was internally shocked. Appalled if you will. But I just kind of stayed calm and asked him how does he get all the dead skin and bacteria off of him if he doesn't use soap or body wash, and he replied that he uses a loofah and scrubs. With just water. He just scrubs with water. And he said that on special occasions he'll use body wash if he wants to smell particularly nice. I genuinely don't know how to handle this, I'm a little bit grossed out. Stories number 60. I keep meeting my birth mom, but she doesn't know it's me. I'm 24F, and I was adopted at birth. My adoptive parents are incredible. They gave me everything a child could ask for, unconditional love, a safe home, support, and space to talk about my biological family if I ever wanted to. But I rarely did. My adoption wasn't closed, I had basic information. I knew my birth mom was 19 when she had me and gave me up for adoption because she wanted more for me. She left a letter. I memorized it by the time I was 8. She said she wasn't ready. That she hoped one day I'd understand. That she loved me more than she could explain and wanted to give me a chance at a life she wasn't capable of offering. That she thought about me every day and hoped I was safe and loved. For a long time, I didn't feel any anger. Just a quiet, curious ache. Like walking past a window with curtains that never opened. When I turned 20, I requested more detailed records. A name, a location, just enough to try to find her without feeling like I was prying too hard. It took me 6 months, but I found her. Her name is Rachel. She works at a bookstore 2 cities away. She's married now, no other kids, lives a quiet life with her husband and 2 dogs. Her Instagram is mostly coffee, books, and dog pictures. Something about her felt warm. Familiar. So I made a choice. I didn't message her. I didn't reach out. I didn't tell her I was her daughter. Instead, I drove to her bookstore. The first time I went in, I panicked. I didn't even see her, I saw a woman at the register and walked right back out. The second time, she was there. Laughing with a customer, helping an older woman find a poetry book. I stood between the aisles pretending to read for over an hour before buying a notebook and leaving. The third time, I talked to her. I asked for a book recommendation. She gave me 3. Told me why she liked them. I made her laugh by saying I hated love stories that end with the couple running through the rain. She said, "Me too, it's so cliché." Her voice was soft, a little raspy, like mine when I'm tired. She had the same wrinkle between her brows when she concentrated. I left the store and cried in my car for 20 minutes. It became a routine. Once a month, sometimes twice. I'd drive to the bookstore and talk to her. We became bookstore friendly. She started recognizing me. "Hey, you again," she'd say. "Read anything good lately?" I once told her I wanted to be a writer, and she lit up, said, "You have the vibe of someone who reads like it's breathing." That stuck with me. Once, it rained hard and she gave me a paper towel to dry off my glasses. It felt so normal, so easy, like something that would have happened if I'd grown up with her. I kept that paper towel. Still have it, but I never told her who I was. I always thought I would, eventually. I kept waiting for the right moment. One day, I'd walk in and say, "I think you know me." Or hand her a copy of the letter she left. But I couldn't. I didn't want to ruin her peace. Her life looked so stable, so carefully put together. Then one day, she wasn't there. Her coworker said she'd be out for a few weeks, her mother was sick, and she'd flown back to her hometown. I found myself going to the store anyway, hoping she'd return soon. When she finally did, she looked tired. Eyes a bit red. She still smiled when she saw me. "Missed our book chats," she said. I almost told her that day. But then she mentioned how much her mother had meant to her, and I just froze. I realized I didn't want to add grief or confusion to her life. I was a ghost to her. A past choice wrapped in a letter. What right did I have to break open old wounds? Still, I kept going back. One day, I asked her about regrets. We'd gotten coffee across the street together, our first time ever leaving the store. She said, "You know, I don't believe in regrets. But there are choices you never stop wondering about." I asked, "Would you ever want to meet someone from your past?" She looked at me for a second too long. Her eyes shimmered, but she smiled. "Only if they still wanted to know me." And I almost said it. Right there. My throat tightened. My heart raced. I opened my mouth, and the bell rang. Someone else entered the cafe. The moment passed. I'm still not sure if she knows. Maybe she suspects. Maybe she feels something but doesn't want to believe it. Or maybe I'm just another kind stranger in her world who likes books and asks good questions. Last week, I gave her a copy of my first short story collection. I published it under a pen name. I tucked a note inside, "Thank you for reminding me that stories matter." I didn't sign it with my name. Just initials. She held it like it was something fragile and said, "I'll treasure this." I'm still not ready to tell her. Maybe I never will. But I will keep showing up, month after month. Maybe that's all I need, for now. I just want her to know me, even if she never knows who I am. Update. I wasn't planning to see her again. After the last time, when she hugged me goodbye and told me she wished she'd had a daughter like me, I promised myself I wouldn't torture either of us anymore. I'd gotten everything I thought I needed, a sense of her, of closure, maybe even of peace. But then my adoptive mom fell ill. The kind of ill where hospital room smells become familiar and flowers start to feel like apologies. And when you're sitting in a waiting room trying not to crumble, you begin to question everything: who you are, where you come from, and who might be left when the last person who's always been there for you is gone. So I did the one thing I swore I wouldn't. I went back. Not by plan. Not exactly. I walked into the bookstore we'd first met in, the one she works at. I told myself it was just for the comfort of the space. The smell of paper and ink. The quietness. But part of me wanted to see her. Maybe for the last time. And then, there she was, stacking new releases near the front. She looked up and smiled, not like she recognized me, just polite, casual warmth. But this time, it hit me differently. I wasn't just looking at a woman who gave birth to me. I was looking at someone with her own quiet heartbreak. Her own choices. Her own story. "Hey," she said. "Back again?" I nodded. "Yeah, couldn't stay away." We talked. I helped her shelve books again, it had become a kind of tradition. We joked about how every thriller seemed to have the same twist now, how she kept trying to read poetry but never got past the first few pages. Her laugh was softer than I remembered. At one point, she asked me something I wasn't ready for. "Do you have siblings?" I froze. I could have lied. I usually did when she asked questions like that. But this time, I just said, not really. But I always wondered what it would have been like. She was quiet a moment. I had a daughter once, she whispered. Gave her up when I was 19. Hardest thing I ever did. My throat closed. My hands trembled. She continued, I just hope she's okay. That she didn't grow up hating me. And then I said something I hadn't planned. Something dangerous. I'm sure she doesn't. Her eyes welled a little. She looked at me for a long, long time. And for one terrifying second, I thought she knew. I thought the recognition would slam into her like a tidal wave. That she'd fall apart. That I would, but she didn't. She just said, thanks. I needed to hear that. We sat in silence for a bit. And then she handed me a book. Poetry, she said. Maybe we both give it another shot. I left with tears in my eyes and a book I didn't read for days. I don't know what I'm going to do. She doesn't know it's me. I've thought about telling her so many times now. I even wrote a letter. It's still sealed in my bag. But what happens after? What if I break her? What if I break me? What if she doesn't want me? Or what if, and this one hurts most, she does, and I waited too long? I don't have an ending yet. Just pages and pages of questions. But I know one thing for sure, I keep meeting my birth mom, because deep down, I'm still hoping one day she'll recognize me, not just with her eyes, but with her heart. Final update. It happened. I finally told her. After nearly a year of running into her, helping her shelve books, sipping lattes together on lunch breaks, and talking about life like two strangers slowly becoming friends, I broke. Or maybe I healed. I don't really know which. All I know is that I couldn't live in between anymore. I couldn't keep visiting my own mother like a ghost hoping to be seen. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't cinematic. It was quiet. Raw. And in a way, perfect. We were closing up the bookstore on a Tuesday evening. She had stayed late to organize a new poetry section, a genre she had started truly enjoying because of me. That irony alone made me tear up. She looked tired. A little older than I remembered from my childhood. But still warm. Still her. I had the letter in my jacket pocket, the same letter I'd rewritten a dozen times. I had added and removed paragraphs for months. Sometimes I sounded too formal. Other times, too desperate. The version I had now was just, honest. When I pulled it out, she gave me a curious glance. What's this? I need you to read it, I said. Right now. She looked surprised, but took it. And I watched her read it. I've never seen someone stop breathing, like literally forget how to inhale, until that moment. The letter explained everything. Who I was. That I was the baby girl she gave up at 19. That I had found her months ago but didn't know how to say it. That I wasn't angry. That I loved her, even if I didn't know her for most of my life. That her name had always lived in my heart, even when I didn't speak it aloud. She looked up at me halfway through, tears running silently down her cheeks. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. I couldn't take it anymore. So I whispered, "Hi, Mom." She dropped the letter. She started to sob. Like the kind of crying you do when your soul is cracking open and something finally escapes. She reached out, then hesitated, and I stepped forward and hugged her. It was the kind of hug you spend a lifetime waiting for. We stood there for minutes, maybe hours. I don't know. Time didn't exist in that moment. Eventually, she whispered in my hair, "I always wondered if you were okay. I prayed you were loved." I was, I said. I am. But I always wondered about you too. It's been 3 months since that night. We're taking it slow. She's meeting my adoptive parents soon, they know everything, and they've been incredible. My mom, the one who raised me, even sent her a message thanking her for giving me life. There were tears. So many tears. We're learning each other. She tells me stories about when she was young, about the day she found out she was pregnant, how scared she was, how she picked my name but never told anyone because it hurt too much. It was the same name my adoptive parents gave me. I'm not making that up. I swear on everything. Same name. No changes. She wept when I told her. She said, it was like the universe never let you forget me. Or me forget you. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know this. I was born to a woman who loved me enough to let me go, and somehow, found her way back, and now. I'm not just found. I'm home. Stories number 61. Aita for stopping donations for my SIL's medical bill after she destroyed her daughter's favorite toy. My 35F husband, 37M, and I have always tried to be the kind of family that shows up. We don't have kids of our own, but we've poured a lot of our time, energy, and resources into supporting our extended family, especially his sister, Rachel, 33F, and her daughter, Lily, 8F. Rachel has been a single mom since Lily was born. Her life hasn't been easy. She has health issues that have gotten worse over the last year, and she doesn't have steady income or insurance. So, when she was hospitalized for a serious heart issue about 6 months ago, we stepped up. And when I say stepped up, I mean I organized a donation drive through my company's employee support network, I built a GoFundMe, and I personally contributed over $3,000 toward her medical bills and household needs. We've paid her rent a few times. We've bought groceries. I even took Lily in for 2 weeks while Rachel was recovering. I didn't mind. Lily is a sweet, smart, quiet kid, polite to a fault, and very emotionally mature for her age. The one thing she carried around everywhere was this tattered, floppy plush bunny named Pickles. She slept with it, carried it in her backpack, read to it, the works. It wasn't just a toy, it was clearly her emotional support through everything going on at home. Even when Rachel was in the hospital, Lily was clutching that bunny while we watched cartoons together on the couch. So when I heard what happened last week, I absolutely lost it. Apparently, Lily had gotten upset because Rachel had promised to take her to the park but cancelled last minute to hang out with a new boyfriend. Lily, being 8, had a meltdown. Nothing wild. According to Rachel's own words, Lily was whiny and ungrateful and acting like a little brat. In response, Rachel grabbed Pickles and cut it up in front of her. She told her, "You're too old to be carrying around a dirty rabbit anyway. Grow up." Yes. She mutilated her child's only comfort item, the one constant in her unstable world, because she was upset. When my husband told me, I was stunned. I thought he was exaggerating. But then Rachel called and laughed about it. She said something like, "Maybe now she'll stop acting like a damn baby." I didn't know whether to cry or scream. I asked Rachel if she was being serious. She said, "Well, maybe you should teach her not to throw tantrums if you want to play mommy." That was the moment I saw red. I told her I was done. I told her I was pulling the GoFundMe down, stopping the donation campaign, and we wouldn't be contributing another cent. My husband backed me up. She tried to tell us we were being dramatic, that this had nothing to do with her medical needs, and that I was punishing her for being a real parent. A real parent? A real parent doesn't emotionally terrorize their child over one bad day. I couldn't bring myself to feel guilty. Not when I imagined Lily curled up in her bed without that bunny, probably thinking it was her fault. Now my phone's been blowing up. Rachel told the rest of the family that I was letting her die over a stuffed animal. That I was holding her illness hostage to emotionally blackmail her. Her mom, Maya Mael, called me a heartless B***tch. Her cousin posted something cryptic on Facebook about people who act generous just to feel superior. Some people who donated even messaged me, asking why the fundraiser was closed. I haven't told them the full story. I don't want to embarrass Rachel publicly, especially not for Lily's sake. But I'm starting to question myself. Was I out of line? Should I have separated her parenting mistake from her medical situation? Did I go too far by cutting off support after everything we've already done? To be clear, it's not about the money. If she were truly helpless, I think I'd still help her in silence. But she's not helpless. She had the energy to start dating again, to go out, to laugh at what she did to her daughter like it was nothing. The image of Lily standing in a room, watching the one thing that made her feel safe get destroyed by the one person who's supposed to protect her, that's not something I can unsee. And to make it worse, 2 days ago, Lily called me. She didn't say anything bad about her mom. She just asked if Pickles could come back. She thought I had him. She thought maybe I could sew him up. I cried for 20 minutes after that call. So, Reddit, Aita for refusing to fund my sister-in-law's medical bills after she destroyed her daughter's most loved toy. And if I'm not the A***hole, what do I do now? Because honestly, I'm starting to think maybe Lily deserves more than just my outrage. Maybe she needs a lifeline too. And I'm wondering if it's time someone else stepped in. But that's another conversation. For now, I just want to know, am I really the villain for saying enough is enough? Update, I talked to Lily again, and now I'm seriously considering something bigger. So, thank you. I read every single one of your comments, and I was overwhelmed by how many of you said what I already knew in my gut. This isn't just about a toy. This is about a pattern. About emotional abuse. About a child who deserves better. I spent the last 2 days doing some serious thinking, and I decided to call Lily. I wanted to hear her voice. I didn't prompt her. I didn't ask leading questions. I just told her I missed her and asked how she was feeling. What she said still makes me sick to my stomach. She whispered, "I try not to cry because then mommy says I'm making her sicker." Let me say that again. An 8-year-old is holding in her grief so she doesn't stress out the mother who destroyed her comfort toy. I asked about school, friends, bedtime, and she just kept brushing things off. It's okay. It's fine. I don't want mommy to be mad again. I asked gently if she had anyone she talked to, a teacher, a school counselor. She said no, she doesn't want anyone to think she's a problem kid. This child has already internalized that her feelings are too much for the adults around her. I could barely get through the call. When we hung up, I sat in my car for nearly an hour, thinking about what I'm supposed to do now. Then I called my husband. I told him, I think Lily's not okay. Like, really not okay. He didn't even hesitate. He said, I've known for a while. I didn't want to say it first. That broke me a little. Because the truth is, we've both seen things. How Lily always flinches a little when Rachel raises her voice. How she over-apologizes for tiny mistakes. How she clings to me and my husband every time she visits like she's exhaling for the first time in days. And how Rachel shrugs it off like it's normal. Like it's just single mom stress. I've spoken to a family lawyer. This is where things get complicated. And real. I spoke to a lawyer friend in my network, just to understand what options exist. I told her everything, about the toy, the phone call, the long history of us supporting Rachel financially while Lily gets neglected emotionally. She said this could potentially fall under emotional neglect, and if we had documented patterns of behavior, we might be able to request a welfare check or even temporary guardianship if it ever came to that. I haven't decided anything. I haven't made any official reports, but I did start keeping records. Every weird comment. Every time Lily calls us. Every text Rachel sends that shows her instability, because if this gets worse, I want to be ready. Rachel found out about the GoFundMe being deleted, and guess what? She sent me a long text accusing me of trying to steal her daughter and act like the better mom. She said I was jealous, bitter, and pathetic. She said, you can throw your money around, but Lily's my kid, and she's fine. Except she's not. She's not fine. She's hanging on by a thread. And this might be the only shot she has at something stable. For now, my husband and I are talking about inviting Lily to spend a longer stretch with us over summer break. We'll document everything. We'll keep things calm. But we're preparing, just in case. I'm still not giving Rachel any more money. That decision stands, but I'm shifting my focus. From outrage, to action. Because while my sister-in-law may have destroyed a toy, I'll be damned if she's allowed to destroy the whole child. Final update, I'm fighting for Lily now, no matter what it takes. It's been 6 weeks since everything happened. 6 weeks since Rachel smashed Lily's toy, demanded money, and then flipped when I said no. 6 weeks since I started documenting everything, not just to protect myself, but to protect Lily. I didn't want this to become a war. I didn't want to make enemies with my husband's sister. But sometimes, you don't get to choose the battle. Sometimes, the only choice is whether or not you show up and fight. And this time, I showed up. I showed up for Lily. A summer that changed everything. We invited Lily to stay with us for the entire summer. It was supposed to be for 3 weeks. But after just 3 days, we knew we couldn't send her back. The change in her was almost instant. The first few nights, she slept like a stone, like her body finally stopped flinching in her sleep. Then she started singing again. Just little hums at first, then full songs in the car. I caught her drawing pictures and labeling us, me, Uncle Josh, Auntie, and Pancake, our dog. She laughed so hard at the park one day she fell backwards and got grass in her hair. When I asked what was so funny, she said, nothing. I just feel happy. It broke my heart in the best way, but there were still moments. One night she cried because she thought Rachel would be mad she didn't call. Another night, she got a stomach ache and whispered, I didn't mean to take too many snacks, please don't be mad. We reassured her. Over and over. Until our voices were sore. You are safe here. You are not in trouble. We love you. Rachel's spiral. Of course, it didn't take long for Rachel to spiral. She started texting us daily. At first, it was guilt-trippy. Funny how you suddenly care so much now that she's not an infant anymore. Then she got accusatory. You're poisoning her against me. I know what you're doing. Finally, she got nasty. Enjoy playing mommy until you get bored. She's mine. Always will be. We kept everything. Every message. Every voicemail. We even recorded a couple of tense phone calls with her consent. She never once asked how Lily was doing. Not once. CPS got involved. This wasn't a decision we made lightly. But after consulting with the lawyer again, and after another chilling phone call where Rachel screamed at Lily for turning into a little brat, we filed a report with CPS. We told them everything, the emotional neglect, the refusal to meet basic needs, the financial demands, and most importantly, Lily's behavior and what she's told us. CPS interviewed Lily at our house. She was nervous but brave. When the social worker asked if she felt safe going home, Lily looked at me and said, "I want to stay here. I feel safe here." God, I'm crying just typing that. They've officially opened an investigation. The custody hearing. Last week, we had a temporary custody hearing. Rachel showed up looking furious and disheveled. She accused us of brainwashing Lily, of trying to steal her child, and of turning her family against her. But the judge didn't seem moved. He read the documentation, heard the CPS report, listened to Lily's testimony in private, and he granted us temporary guardianship for the next 90 days. Rachel stormed out of the courtroom. We haven't heard from her since. What comes next? We don't know yet if we'll get full guardianship. The court wants to monitor things over the next few months. Rachel still technically has parental rights. But for now, Lily is with us. Safe. Loved. Healing. She's in therapy twice a week. We have family sessions too. And just yesterday, she asked if we could redecorate her room to make it feel more like home. She picked lavender walls and glow-in-the-dark stars. We painted them together. She sleeps with Pancake every night now, wrapped around him like he's her lifeline. Final thoughts. To everyone who told me to trust my gut, thank you. To everyone who said, don't give her a penny, but give the child everything, thank you. To everyone who reminded me that love doesn't always look like DNA or bloodlines, thank you. I didn't want to become a parent this way. I didn't expect to be pulled into this kind of chaos. But sometimes, love isn't about what you planned. It's about showing up when it matters most. Lily deserved someone to show up. So I did. And I will keep showing up, every single day.